I am. Can you
Yes,
hear me okay?
yeah, I hear you perfectly. So thank you very much, Benjamin, for being with us today. And you are from Australia, very far away. So we are recording you, we are listening to you, and if you can share your PowerPoint, maybe. Perfect. So the floor is yours.
Excellent. Okay, so yes, I hope you can see the presentation good and you can hear me all right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. It's great to be here, great to connect with you, and great to tell you a little bit about what we do here in Australia and Queensland when we're utilising drones for bushfire incidents. A little bit about myself first up. So I work in the air operations unit. We manage crewed and uncrewed aviation. We look after our helicopters, our planes, mainly for water bombing, but also for swift water rescue operations, but also the uncrewed aviation, our drones. Now, drones have a different description all over the world. Some call them UAV, some call them UAS. We call them RPAS, remotely piloted aircraft systems. And throughout my presentation, you will read that quite a bit, the RPAS. So basically with RPAS, we mean drones, UAS, UAVs, whatever you want to do. But for us, it's RPAS, and that's what I refer to in my presentation. Within the air operations unit, I'm an officer there, and my portfolio is the RPAS portfolio, where I'm the program lead for RPAS, making sure that we have that integrated into our business as usual to look after the state of Queensland from an emergency services point of view. I'm also the Chief Maintenance Controller for our RPAS program, and I'm also having an airborne role, so I'm an air observer. So I'll do fly in helicopters and planes and do the mapping with our crewed aviation during the bushfire or the severe weather season that we experience here in Queensland. I always like to start off to give you a bit of an insight of the size of the country, the continent Australia. I've overlaid Australia over Europe, and it gives you a bit of an appreciation about the size of our country here down under. We are 1.5 times the size of Europe. And I usually break it down, and I like to compare it with Germany and the state of Queensland, because Germany, you might hear from the accent, that's where I'm from, that's where I was born, that's where I was born, that's where I grew up before I moved to Australia. If we compare the size of Germany with about 360 square kilometers to just the state of Queensland, as you can see shaded in orange here on the east coast of Australia, it's 1.8 million square kilometers. Compare the population with Germany of about 84, 85 million people. We only have 5 million people, so we have a huge state to look after from a size perspective. Population is very densely populated along the east coast, along the ocean. This is where we see most of the population, and then we go inland where it gets a little bit more sparse. For those that have not visited Australia or Queensland itself, you would know about the Great Barrier Reef, biggest living organism in the world, which is part of Queensland's coastline. But also in Queensland, as you can see in the picture below, is bushland. We have a lot of bush, we have a lot of land, and we had a lot of fuel available to burn. And fire season in Australia is long, and we have several fire seasons based on where you are geographically located within the country, because we have 3 different climate zones in our country, in our continent of Australia alone. So the vegetation that we have is a lot of eucalypt forest, and that is very prone to bushfires. So Australia itself is one of the most fire-prone countries in the world, hence why we are dealing with bushfires on a regular basis. The Queensland Fire Department is an all-hazard approach. What does that mean? We have 2 services. We have the Rural Fire Service. The Rural Fire Service mainly run by volunteers, supported by staff. We have about 30,000 volunteers all over Queensland that volunteer their time to fight bushfires. And then on the other side, we have the Queensland Fire and Rescue side of things, where we deal with everything from car accidents, house fires, hazmat incidents, swiftwater rescues, and so forth. So we are not utilizing the drone capability just for bushfires. We are an all-hazard approach, and I'll get more into it a little bit later. Our capability, our RPAS, our drone capability, currently, we have about 115 aircraft, drones available to us all across the state, and you can see the green flags where they're currently located. We have about 148 pilots, operational and in training. They're all regional setups with a state oversight. So from my perspective, I'll provide that state oversight, but the regions will run their capability. We can operate day and night, and we can operate within control or close to controlled and uncontrolled aerodromes anywhere in the country where we need to operate. As I mentioned earlier, we're not only using it for bushfires, we're also utilizing it a lot for crew safety. So the drones that we utilize, heavily used for situational awareness, crew safety, that live streaming. You can see vertical rescues, you can see structure fires, but you can also see bushfires where these drones come in really, really handy just to provide that additional eye in the sky to make the life and the work of our frontline staff and volunteers safer. Search and rescue is what we do on a regular basis as well. We support police and the State Emergency Service with our RPAS capability, and we're doing a lot of mountain rescues, specifically during the night, where we support our mountain rescue crews with lighting and whatever they need. But yeah, the search and rescue component with missing person searches is something we do on a very regular basis as well. Hazmat incidents, really, really good with the RPAS, where we can provide from a safe distance a lot of information, so we don't have to send in someone, a firefighter first, to assess the situation. We can assess it from the air and give that vital information back to the crews on the ground. But let's get into it. The RPAS use at Australian bushfires. Here in Queensland, our bushfire season usually starts in winter because it's usually very dry up here. We are in the northern part of the country, and it runs right up to right about now, when we get the summer storms and the humidity rises and the bushfires becoming less currents. That's when the fire season will then start in the more southern states like New South Wales, Victoria, South Australia, and Western Australia. We utilize drones or RPAS, and not only when there is an actual bushfire, we use it before the bushfire actually occurs. So in the preparedness stage, when our volunteers and staff are actually preparing for the upcoming fire season every year, we're doing what is called hazard mitigation, hazard reduction burns, where we pre-select areas of concern of vegetation that under controlled circumstances will be burned before the fire season kicks in. So we have a buffer when there is an actual fire starting in the area, runs into an already burnt area, runs out of fuel, and extinguishes. So we support with the drones here significantly. We can do some mapping before we actually sending crews in there and lighting controlled fires. With a live stream, we are supporting decision makers with that aerial view, and absolutely the crew safety, very, very important part of what we're doing with the drones. And that situational awareness goes hand in hand with it. We're going to that stage where we have done in the past for controlled burns, where there's a lot of koala population. You all know koalas, and we want to take good care of them. And we can actually spot them with the drone at night with the thermal and geolocate them just to find out what wildlife is in that area where we have a planned controlled burn, and monitor that throughout the whole process, the whole incident, as to what happens with the wildlife and provide that intelligence to our partner agencies that manage that land on which we operate on. When we come to the response phase, it is very, very similar to what we do in the preparedness phase for controlled burns. If we respond to an actual bushfire, what we utilize the aircraft, the drones for a lot is the mapping. That sort of crucial piece of information for our decision makers, for our crews on the ground, to know where is the fire. Is there anything at threat? How can we get crews to the fire? And where can we get water from? And all these informations the drones can provide. With the live stream back to a control center, obviously that decision making, that situational awareness is right there. And the crew safety, where we support our crews on the ground, but also contractors. When there's a dozer pushing in a brake, we can support them with the drone, just as that overwatch, making sure everything is working as planned. Once the fire is sort of extinguished, we are finished with the response phase. We're going into the recovery phase, and drones are getting used in that phase as well for mapping afterwards, mapping the aftermath, mapping damage, doing damage assessments on A, the vegetation, but B, also if we have any structural loss, any houses, anything that has been impacted by fire. We can document this, we can map this, and feed this into our situational awareness tool that every staff member here within Queensland Fire Department has access to. And it's also a great tool for our fire investigators to have that footage, have that documentation of the certain incident that they can then base their investigation on and work with the data that we have provided them. When we're looking at a hazard reduction burn, you should see that video here, the side-by-side thermal on the left-hand side and the visual on the right-hand side. That's a hazard reduction burn that we've done, and you can clearly see the value of the drone imagery that was live streamed to the incident controller and the crew leaders on the ground. You can see there on the left-hand side a crew member with a hose actually going along the track where the fire truck is driving ahead, and you can see another firefighter throwing flames into it and starting that fire. So that's a controlled burn along a track for a brigade, and we've just provided that situational overwatch and the crew safety just to make sure everything goes and burns as planned and there's no spot overs or any other issues that arise with setting fire to the landscape. So I've just thought I'd just share with a couple of useful tips as to what we found works really well for us in bushfire operations. What do we utilize? What do we have for equipment? And what operational conditions we sort of see as the most valuable part for bushfire operations. So I'm pretty sure probably most of you are aware with the features that the DJI aircraft and the Enterprise aircraft do provide. So the 360 panorama images are a really, really good situational awareness tool that we utilize. It is quick to capture those 25 images, and through our mapping software, we can process that through, and within 15 minutes, we have it in our internal system where everyone, even the volunteers on the ground, on their phones through our internal situational awareness tool, can have access to this, and they know what's going on, and they know what the fireground, the incident site will look like from different angles. And those 360 images provide a really, really good tool for this. The side-by-side view, specifically when we're live streaming, you can see that down in the bottom corner, that screenshot, where we really get a good understanding of where's the fire actually traveling to, so we can penetrate with the thermal through the smoke, through the vegetation, and we get a really good idea of where the fire is currently traveling in the landscape. But then on the other side, on the right-hand side, we can actually see the smoke. What is the smoke doing? And that's important for us as well. which direction is the smoke going? Yeah, do we need to put community warnings out that certain suburbs will be affected by smoke, or does the weather change and we can see this in the smoke column changing direction? But also the vegetation. For our predictive services units, the analysts that will look at this footage, that will look at the live stream, they can base their modeling as to what that fire will do, how fast it will travel, based on the vegetation that we tell them, that we show them, that we provide that intelligence for. Through that live stream, everything gets centralized and pushed out to the decision makers and the mapping software. You can see there on the right-hand side, a control of the Mavic 3, and down in the bottom left-hand corner, it's an Australian product where we can actually map straight off the controller, where we can provide access, where's the fire, where's hotspots, where's houses. We can map this straight from the drone, utilizing the laser or utilizing the drone location. And we instantly feed this into our mapping tool where decision makers can have access to it. And then we can print maps on it. We can brief ground crews on the current situation of where the fire is located and other information that is important. So there's some really, really good features that we like, that we use on a very regular basis when we respond to bushfires. What equipment do we find very useful? And I think you all resonate and you all agree with me that the Starlink is obviously a great addition available to us now for some time, specifically in rural, remote areas where reception is not very good or not existent. Our state is very, very large, and if you go out of the metropolitan areas, you will rely on satellite technology, and Starlink is really bridging that gap for us where we can have access anywhere and we can produce a very clear, low lag live stream anywhere we want to. Four-wheel drive vehicles, obviously in the bush, is a must-have, so we can get our crews, our pilots, and our equipment to where we want it to. Portable screens, a lot of agencies I've seen have them mounted on their vehicles, but sometimes you can't get the vehicle as far as you want to go or from where you want to fly. So we have small portable screens with us, and you can see us in the top right-hand corner that you can provide to decision makers or for the pilots. And yeah, it just provides that great overview, a bigger screen, and yeah, our crews, specifically our incident controllers, love those little screens because they can just move anywhere and be portable and available to them. Portable power stations, again, the same thing. If you can't charge off your car, those little portable power stations that are available on the market are a really, really good tool for us to recharge and basically fly all day and all night if we have to. Our drone kits usually go out with 4 battery sets, and if we have the portable power stations there and we do our battery management properly, we can operate continuously. And a laptop to upload data through the Starlink back to decision makers, back to our cloud, to be able to share that information. Also, the mapping information that we have collected can then be processed and made available. Operating conditions. We found that operating drones at bushfires at night or early in the morning works really, really well, specifically when we're doing mapping, because the temperatures are cooler, the fire stands out better, and again, there's less traffic in the air. We share the same airspace as crewed aviation, and we usually operate together, but the ARP has really bridged that gap where during the night, our water bombing aircraft, our mapping aircraft are unable to fly from a crewed perspective, the helicopters and the planes. So this is where ARPAS really bridges that gap and provides that situational awareness, that oversight and the mapping update through the night into the early morning. And when the ground crews come in the morning for their day shift, they have an updated map with up-to-date information as to where the fire is and what the situation is on the fire ground based on the mapping update that the drone has done overnight. And for those sort of longer duration bushfires, we usually run with 2 pilots just for fatigue management and just having the other pilot there just to take over. And also with the DJI Enterprise, with the payload operators, the payloads are so good that really it deserves a dedicated payload operator to operate the camera systems and the sensors. As I mentioned earlier, these two can operate at the same fire, and we are doing this on a regular basis with the communication between crewed and uncrewed established. Usually at larger fires, we have several of those helicopters, water bombing capability available, but then they come with another helicopter or plane where we have an air attack supervisor. So a agency person that coordinates the aircraft and communicates also to the drone pilots on the ground. And with the separation given, everyone's involved, everyone's informed. The drone pilots on the ground and the pilots in the air, if no one has a problem with it, we operate at the same airspace during the day. No problem at all, as long as everyone's informed and everything is safe. And that works really, really well, where the crewed aviation sometimes focuses on one side of the fire and doing water bombing, and the drone is doing damage assessment or focusing on a backburn on another sector of the fire and provide that situational awareness from that part of the incident. In the sort of recovery phase, what we found really useful is having a mapping software where we can then do that damage assessment. We can get the before and after the incident. We can do volumetric calculations, which are useful for sometimes the council as to know how much rubbish they need to cart away from the site, specifically after floods or when there's lots of structural damage. So they know how many cubic meters, they know how many trucks they need, and how big the dump site will need to be to facilitate all that rubbish that has to be taken away from. 3D reconstructions, quite interesting for our fire investigators, so they have a good view of what happened and for their investigations and documentations as well. What RPAS models are we currently using at the Queensland Fire Department? As you can see, heavily dominated by DJI. We're starting from the DJI Matrice 350 RTK with the H30T payload, which is a really, really good enhancement coming from the H20T, the Matrice 300 RTK. The main workhorse for bushfires, just because it's smaller, it is quick to deploy, it's got that IP rating, is the DJI Matrice 30T. That's what we use mainly. That's the main workhorse in that sort of space, but also followed by the DJI Mavic 2 and 3 Enterprise series that provide a really good small situational gathering tool.
2 minutes remaining.
Thank you. And that works really well. So this is where we're currently at. What are we looking at in the future for our bushfire operations? How can we better support our crews, our staff, our volunteers on the ground with drones? Specifically in the bushfire environment, we're looking at the heavy lift drones that are available on the market. They can carry 30 to 40, sometimes more kilos to support our remote area firefighting teams. So they are the ones that work remotely in the bush without any trucks. So we can actually ferry equipment to them or from them just to save them on carrying too much gear into the bush. Aerial incendiary, which is aerial ignition, used for controlled burns, where we can drop little balls that have a flammable substance in it that ignites on impact on the ground. So we can actually burn a control line or burn out any unburned pockets at wildfires. And then we're currently working on with our regulator, the Civil Aviation Safety Authority, CASA here in Australia, to get us extended visual line of sight and beyond visual line of sight approvals for bushfires and other incidents. So currently operating under visual line of sight with an observer is what we're doing for all incidents. Excellent. That's a current trial of the heavy lift drone, lifting in some heavier equipment to our crews that are in the bush. And that is it from me. Thank you very much. Down there is a QR code if you're interested to learn more about Queensland Fire Department e-operations. Gets you to our page with crewed and uncrewed information. So yeah, feel free to connect with me after this. If you have any questions, happy to share any information. And yeah, just looking forward to hearing the other presenters. Thank you very much. Sorry, Vanilla, I think you're muted. We can't hear you.
Yeah, it works better with the mic. I was saying, thank you very much, Benjamin. It was really, really interesting. And if you have any question, guys, it's now or never, like maybe 1 or 2 questions for Benjamin. If you have any question to drop, it's now. Okay. Okay, thank you very much, Benjamin, and we will move to the next speaker, who is Daryl for Search and Rescue in Scotland. Do you hear us?
Yes, yeah, can you hear me?
Yes. If you just try to speak a little bit louder, or maybe manage your mic, but...
Sure. Okay, I'll just try and share my screen.
Perfect.
Okay, can you see my first slide?
Yeah, it's working.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay to carry on?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, fantastic. Good morning, good afternoon or evening, wherever you are. And first of all, thank you to yourself, Wendelin, and IEDO for the opportunity to share knowledge and to be involved in such an event. But first of all, just a little bit about the organisation I'm part of. So I'm currently the training officer for the Search and Rescue Aerial Association Scotland. So we are affiliated with Scottish Mountain Rescue, and we've been running for since 2018. So we act as an umbrella organisation that supports pilots that serve in the Scottish Mountain Rescue teams, and we cover the whole of Scotland. At present, we have about 30 pilots that utilise drones within those mountain rescue teams. And in addition, we have a number of our own drones strategically placed for response. So where some teams in Scotland don't have drones, we're able to cover their ground. The types of incident we attend are wide-ranging and can be in mountainous environments, but many of our incidents are also in lowland areas, and many of them involve the search for high-risk missing persons. We cover everything from the coast to the mountains and in between, all of which require a number of wide-ranging tactics, different sizes and capabilities of drone, so very diverse at times. So just looking at the type and size of drone we use, so I'm sure you're all familiar with those drones. So we use a wide selection, anything from small FPV drones. We use those for searching gorges or complex ground. We use sub 250 gram drones that are easy to pack in a rucksack and carry up the hill. Bearing in mind that it may take some time to actually get to the search area, so it's not uncommon for us to be walking an hour in the mountains before we actually get to where we're actually searching. But we mostly use mid-sized drones, the Mavic 2-3s, but also larger drones with capabilities such as being able to be used in wet weather. And for us in Scotland, which I'm sure you can imagine is a deal breaker. And we very much look forward to manufacturers that will start manufacturing the smaller and mid-sized drones that have an IP rating. The way we operate is with a system of the pilot flying the drone by line of sight safely, while a visual observer carries out the search either through a pair of goggles or by the use of an additional screen. Generally, a pilot will be assisted by another mountain rescue team member, which could be any team member, as a visual observer, until another pilot is in attendance. So generally, when we get a call out, we'll deploy more than one pilot. But sometimes, as you can imagine, in Scotland, it actually takes a while to get to the incident. It is a balance of what drone we use, and that depends on the type of incident. So as an example, in winter, the drone team would have to carry all of their personal equipment, such as crampons, ice axe, additional winter clothing, and their personal avalanche equipment, as well as the drone and ancillaries. Being an umbrella organisation gives us some really distinct advantages. Instead of separate teams working on their own, so we can collectively gain search experience of many different types of incident from our pilots through two-way feedback. So this enables us to constantly have up-to-date search procedures, search patterns, and common terminology that feeds into our pilot manual, allowing interoperability between mountain rescue team pilots. So it's really, really important that we all work together doing the same thing so that everyone knows and expects what will happen. So just go back one. There we go. So today I would like to talk to you about some thoughts and considerations on search and rescue incidents in environments that necessitate a variety of wide range of technical search and rescue disciplines, all of which would warrant the use of drones and covering anything from sea to summit. And that includes above and below ground. So many different types of incident can occur in a rural setting, which warrant the common use of drones, such as scene assessment, situational awareness, and search. However, more and more uses of drones at specific incidents and in specific environments are becoming more and more apparent as technology improves. Just looking at some technical rescue disciplines, it is often the case that drone pilots or a capability is not integrated, for example, within a standalone rope rescue team. Many tasks can be carried out by the drone at such incidents, in addition to an exceptional method of situational awareness. For those on top and out of view of the rescuer, low down a cliff face to a casualty, for example, tasks such as route finding, for the stretcher lower, communications by speaker to the casualty perhaps, and lighting at night can also be achieved at minimal risk to responders. As highlighted with Ben, it's critical part of our toolbox that enables responders to maintain their safety. With regards to water rescue, again, standalone water rescue teams don't ordinarily have a drone pilot integrated, and just small basic drone may cut the risk to the water rescue team, as in this video, having to cross moving water to search the other side of the bank, for example. So got to get dressed in their PPE, got to get the boat in order, got to put themselves at risk crossing the river, so all taking the time and increasing risk. So a drone may negate all of that risk to them and increase efficiency, allowing them to be deployed elsewhere. We all know that flood incidents are becoming more and more common and can cover very large areas. Flood incidents often overwhelm search and resources initially, as it takes fully kitted out team to carry out most flood related tasks. So how many times have water rescue teams have had to deploy just to check a vehicle in the water, which is hopefully doesn't have anyone in it, but still has to be checked. So obviously using a drone for this type of task can be done in minutes, again with minimal risk. Many organisations have well-established drone teams. However, some incidents may require a range of different technical rescue capabilities, and those beyond that of the pilot's qualifications or experience of the drone pilot. So many organisations have for an example, a drone team, but they may not necessarily be water rescue qualified, able to go in a boat, rope rescue qualified, urban search and rescue qualified, etc., etc. So we're trying to encourage more and more use in these individual teams. Included within water incidents are gorge searches for us, where a different approach or type of drone may have to be taken due to the complex nature and of flying close proximity to obstacles. So these type of features can present difficulties to searchers due to the risk, and not just moving water, but also the issue of working at height, where the going will be slow. The risk may be increased, all causing the time taken to search and find a casualty so much longer. Obviously we have much coastline in Scotland, so they present significant challenges, not only to us, but to the Coast Guard. Just going back there. And lowland teams, due to their complex layout with inlets, rock formations, undercuts, and caves, where eyes in the sky would really limit the risk to responders to search, whether they're deployed from land or water. We do have many wildfires in Scotland and the UK. Obviously, they're in remote areas, difficult to reach. Again, just thinking about remote incidents, we've in the UK had quite a few train incidents that are remote. We've had many aircraft incidents that are remote, and they all provide us with challenges to the emergency and volunteer services. Ranging from a number of issues much different to those types of incidents in the urban environment. Having experienced delivering mines rescue training and working with mines rescue teams, responding to those mines incidents above or below ground, I don't often see that those mines rescue teams include the use of drones in their search and rescue tactics. Like a collapsed structure in urban search and rescue, the use of the drone may be critical to assess the collapse, identify hazards, search for casualties, and identify shoring locations, which in turn minimises risk to responders. Of course, there are connectivity and other challenges to overcome flying in such an environment. However, manufacturers are listening, and individuals and teams are pushing things ahead. So it's getting more and more easier to operate in these type of conditions. How can we justify committing responders to do these tasks when we can use a relatively inexpensive drone? Of course, there is ongoing costs and training. However, as always, this bears no resemblance to the cost of losing a responder's life financially or at reputational risk to the organisation, not to mention the impact on the family. And just looking at the situational awareness offered by the drone in this simulated incident, where an open mines rescue team are practicing their response to a vehicle over a roadside edge, even the small off-the-shelf drone can make the difference for tasks such as assessment, identification of hazards, situational awareness, and monitoring the incident. Incidents such as these are all specific examples where we can use drones and where they might require different capabilities and tactics. In some technical search and rescue teams, drone use is business as usual. However, for many, it has not yet been normalised, which can hinder the gathering of information, the time taken to find the casualty, or to maintain or even negate risk to responders. Many organisations attend a number of incidents where the tactics may be very, very similar. So one thing we would like to see is more collaboration, more interagency working and training, so that information can be shared. So emergent services such as the police, fire, ambulance, volunteer rescue services such as Lowland and Mountain Rescue, Coast Guard and others can all learn something from each other. So we will be much better in a better position if we work together. It's great to see the use of technology is moving fast, and especially in the area of search, with a number of artificial intelligence systems now in use, offering an enhanced capability over the human eye. These innovations will no doubt and are having an impact on the way we use our drones and how we search. However, some searches still involve complex ground or other factors where the use of AI may not be possible or effective. But nevertheless, as systems develop, they become more and more accurate and useful in situations than at present. And they're quickly becoming normalized within our search procedures. We've also found that we're using them more and more in our historical searches in Scotland. So we still have a number of persons missing over the years, and it's providing a great tool for these searches. So search and rescue pilots need to maintain a wide range of skills using a number of different platforms, like in our own team, where we could be searching anything from complex ground with many obstacles to searching a large mountain face or an avalanche in winter at night. So take this multifaceted mountain face, for example, a relatively straightforward incident on a clear day, however, a very much different story at night. Training obviously is paramount, so we encourage our pilots to understand realistically what they may actually see when using thermal, which may not be as expected as in the images portray. So in the left-hand image, the casualty is wearing full summer clothing. In the middle image, they're wearing winter clothing, and the right-hand image shows the casualty in a group shelter. So it's really important for us to train and get our pilots to understand what they will actually see, and which is maybe not what they expect. We also encourage our pilots to use thermal image as a matter of course in the daytime as well as at night, as this can be very effective in identifying targets in shadows. As you can see here, this herd of deer clearly stand out within the shadow, which we would not have ordinarily been able to see. It's again making our pilots understand the platforms that they're using. So we must use our payloads clearly. So this is a thermal image view, which is a great capability, but if the casualty is shining a flashlight at us, we might not be able to see that through the thermal camera. So we try to embed the good practice in our training of switching from time to time to visible camera, which then we might be able to see the flashlight beam. We may choose a starlight camera, which we could see such a beam. However, for us, searching in the hills in Scotland, there is limited light, so other options are more favourable. Other developments that we would like to see are the use of mobile phone and avalanche victim detection. There are systems in place, however, they're probably beyond the realms of affordable to most volunteer teams that have to fundraise for such a capability. The team's already working hard to fundraise for their drones, ancillaries and ongoing costs, and it can be prohibited. In Scotland, not many climbers who frequent the hills in winter carry avalanche transceivers, but just about everyone carries a mobile phone. So hopefully, as these systems develop, the price will come down. There are many other uses of drones still yet to be exploited fully, as new platforms are developed by manufacturers. As an example, heavy lift, as Ben alluded to, it's something that's becoming extremely useful at incidents, especially in remote or rural environments. So take a train derailment, for example, where responders may have to physically carry rescue equipment some distance up and down steep ground in wet, muddy, icy conditions at night, for an example, where a drone may be able to shuttle equipment, again, reducing risk to responders. Again, just focusing on training. One area we have concentrated on is to how we train realistically with regards to our casualties. Obviously, using live casualties is the best option. However, for us in our remote areas, in our remote teams, it's not always possible, and transporting a full-size rescue mannequin up the side of a mountain is not always an option. So we've been using two-dimensional vinyl casualties. So they're simply a photograph of a live person laying down, sitting, standing, and then printed full size on vinyl. They work best out of sunlight due to the sheen of the smoothness of the surface and reflection of the sun. But they're light. They can be fixed by tent pegs. A range of clothing colours and casualty positions can be used to get the pilot to recognise them as viewed through the camera. But of course, they do have their limitations, but they are useful. Another option for us is using inflatable casualties. So these are cost-effective and are simply shop front mannequins. So they're used by shop displays, but are again lightweight, cost-effective, and the advantage is that they can represent the same shape as a real casualty if they're semi-inflated, and they can be completely dressed in real clothing, so the pilot gets a benefit of real colours, textures, and shapes. And in addition, we can also add heat pads into the casualties as well. So that concludes my presentation, and hopefully it's given you some food for thought. I believe that we are still in the infancy of what can be achieved with drones and making the operation of them normalised. But we can be much stronger together through national and international partnerships and collaboration. It's good to see that so many national organisations liaise with each other internationally and openly share information, which allows greater progress on the whole. We have to continue to promote the use of drones and educate others in every which way we can to achieve our common goals. But that includes every search and rescue discipline, not just search. So thank you for listening, and I'll be happy to have any further discussions. So email at the bottom, and I'm also on LinkedIn. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Daryl. It was very, very interesting. And I totally agree with you. Like, we need to discuss with all people doing drones for good, like exchanging knowledge and techniques. And that's what we are trying to do with IEDO, to connect people from different places of the world and exchange knowledge. We have one question from the from people. How do you manage the issues of connection, transmission network during flights?
Again, much similar to Ben. So many of our teams are starting to operate with Starlink and other devices. So it's becoming less and less of a problem. We do have problems with connectivity in Scotland. Quite a few areas are out. But yeah, it's becoming less and less of an issue.
Okay. And there was on the chat box some discussion about using small drones for indoor search and rescue, like Avatar, but of course it seems to be obvious that the small Avatar is just fit for small recon or between obstacles or indoor stuff.
Absolutely. So in the example of the mines rescue, of course they would have to go down the mine to get to the point of the collapse, but what it's now doing is enable us to go beyond the collapse and get closer in, as opposed to having to either take the time to shore the collapse area or to commit responders to dangerous conditions. So they are very much limiting that risk and in some areas negating that risk. And again, for an example, in urban search and rescue, why would we send a responder in when we can send the drone in to carry out that initial assessment, where before we would have to do some shoring, try and get the search camera in there, and search by other means. So they really are helping us with risk management.
Yeah, okay. I have a question for you. I know that Scotland is very hard about the weather. I would like to know if the border between go or no go for flights is very obvious or not, considering rain or freezing, you know, and is it for you obvious, like you are not flying, or sometimes you are, playing with the borders?
Yes and no. So in the very early stages of my drone career in Scotland, I learnt to, even if the weather looks really bad, is to always bring the drone with me, because in Scotland we can have all seasons in one day quite easily. And on the very first search I'd done, there was a 5-minute window, 5-10 minutes, that enabled me to get the drone up and located the target. So again, sometimes it's obvious. If it's hammering down, sometimes it's less so. But hopefully drone manufacturers are listening to us, and hopefully in the very near future we'll be looking at smaller mid-sized drones having an IP rating. Again, that's very much a deal breaker for us, flying or not flying.
Okay, so thank you very much, Daryl, and it was very nice to hear from you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Andreas from Norway. Are you there? I guess so. I don't see you. I don't hear you.
I'm here.
I hear you. I see you.
Very good. Thank you very much.
So the floor is yours, Andreas from Norway, about search and rescue techniques from Norway.
Thank you very much. I will just put up my screen here.
Of course. It works. Perfect.
It works. Very good. Thank you very much, Wendelin. Hi, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to speak at the IEDO conference. My name is Andreas Olstad Nilsen. I am head of training at the Norwegian Police Unmanned Air Support Unit. The Norwegian Police has a nationwide UAS program, and our current drone pilot certification program is a police university college course spanning about 500 hours in total duration. The content is split over many different topics, spanning from basic maneuvering through airspace regulations, various skills and mission-specific tactics and techniques. But today I'll be covering in detail the search and rescue techniques currently used by Norwegian police drone pilots in order to locate missing people mostly in dense vegetation. I usually spend quite a bit more time than 30 minutes covering this topic, so I'll do my best to squeeze it in, and we'll see how it goes. We started using drones for around 5 or 6 years ago now. And as we all know, there were no books to read on how to use drones for police work or search and rescue work. We received some training. The first pilots, we received training on how to maneuver the drones, on the airspace regulations, a bit on meteorology, but there were no best practices, so we had to figure out how could we use these drones most effectively to find people who were lost. Nevertheless, we did have super high expectations. After all, we did have thermal cameras in the air, so what could possibly go wrong? We thought it would be easy peasy, but we were in for a surprise. We quickly realized that finding people in dense vegetation was a lot harder than we thought. So we did have a slow start. We started out in 2019, 2020, and 2021 by averaging about 0.1 successful location per drone pilot per year, meaning that we basically had to work for 10 years on average for every successful finding of a lost person. Pretty underwhelming, so we took a careful look on how to improve our techniques and tried to create a better system to use for SAR missions. And happily, we saw a drastic improvement after implementing these new techniques, increasing the success rate from approximately 0.1 find per pilot per year to almost 0.9 finds, or basically 1 find per year. And even though there were a lot of other contributing factors as well, we are pretty certain that these techniques play a significant role. So the last few years, we have found 139 people in need of search or in need of rescue, averaging about 1 person per week. And our data shows that about 80% of the missing people are located by the thermal camera. So we are using the thermal camera a lot, both in the daylight and in the nighttime. We have published a white paper detailing these techniques. It's available for everyone on politiet.no/droner for you to download if you want a closer look. So let's take a deeper dive. Drones are but one of many tools available in SAR operations. Many of our colleagues were quite excited to see drones in search and rescue, and quite frankly, some of the ground personnel were a bit worried that the drones would make them redundant. But rest assured, ground personnel are still the backbone of any SAR operation. We just now have more tools in the toolbox. To start off, we need to debunk some myths about thermal cameras. I'm sure many of you have used a lot of thermal cameras and know these things well. Others might not. We've all seen the ads and the movies. Seemingly, you can't escape a thermal camera. However, the thermal radiation is merely electromagnetic radiation. It's just like visible light. And everything emits thermal radiation. And it's the surface temperature of the object that is the defining parameter. We cannot see the core temperature of the person. We can only see the temperature of their skin or of their clothing. And just like you showed earlier, Daryl, what the fabric or the outermost layer is made up of is very important and defines how much radiation escapes the body. But just like visible light, thermal radiation is easily stopped by objects. In fact, thermal radiation does not even penetrate many of the things that are transparent to visible light, like windows or water. So hiding from a thermal sensor is not impossible at all. Just standing behind an object will severely impact the thermal signature. So in order to optimize our techniques, we need to understand some very critical factors in order to find lost people by using a thermal camera. The contrast in surface temperature must be there between the person and their surroundings. There are challenges with clothing, warm weather, or low body temperature. Secondly, there must be a visual line of sight between the thermal sensor and the heat source. And of course, dense vegetation, angle of view, or hilly terrain are challenges for us there. And thirdly, given that the thermal sensor has a finite resolution, there must be a sufficient number of pixels on the target to recognize the heat source as relevant. And here we see challenges on sensor resolutions, flight altitudes, and we need to balance the efficiency and precision. On one side, we want to fly high in order to get the most view of the ground as possible, to see as much as possible. But then again, we don't want to fly so high that all the details are impossible to discern. So what to consider when choosing a camera sensor? We need to evaluate whether or not a temperature contrast is expected. And in our experience, if we can expect a temperature contrast, we prefer to use the thermal camera. If not, we need to consider daylight conditions, very sunny days, good lighting conditions. We don't necessarily prefer the visual camera, but at least it makes it a good option to switch between them. And also the clothing or equipment colors on the missing person is also of great importance, and even bold colors seem to be a lot more difficult to find than one might expect. Okay, over to some of the nitty-gritty details. We need to optimize the angles in order to get the light to hit the sensor. If the radiation or visible light from the missing person is not hitting the sensor, it's impossible to view them at all. So how do we increase the probability of having a direct line of sight between the sensor and the missing person? This field you see right here could be littered with missing people, but from this angle, they are hidden in the tall grass. Adjusting the angle makes all the difference. But what exactly is the best angle? We can make some general definitions. In order to understand the success criteria to find a missing person, we can use two different cones to help us understand. Any missing person has a visibility cone marked here in the red cone, and the drone has a detection cone marked as the yellow cone. If the drone is located within the visibility cone, it's possible to spot the person. But if the detection cone is not matched up with the visibility cone, we cannot see him after all. So both cones have to match up in order for the drone to see the missing person. In this example, the visibility cone is very, very big, so it's basically not important at all where the drone is located. The only success criteria need to be met is the detection cone from the drone. However, in areas with dense vegetation or other obstructions, the visibility cones can be much narrower. This first person might be looking up at a narrow canopy gap, while this other person might be under a bit larger canopy gap, providing a wider visibility cone for him to be located at. So we can see that the denser the vegetation, the narrower the visibility cone gets. And not only that, but the more vertical the visibility cone gets as well. This is well illustrated by these pictures here taken by me in some extremely dense spruce forest in Norway. I simply pointed my camera straight up. The trees are dense and approximately 50 feet tall, and we can clearly see more sky in the center of the image and gradually less and less out toward the sides. indicating that the visibility cones for me, in this case, holding the camera pointing straight up, is larger in the center and pretty narrow. So perfect. Did we need to do all this talk about cones and angles just to conclude that pointing the camera straight down is the best option? Even though pointing this camera straight down enables us to find people with visibility cones that are vertically oriented, it's much harder to find people with gradual angled vertical cones or visibility cones, meaning that people that are standing under something might not be possible to locate. So this first person will be visible for us because the visibility cone and the detection cone matches up. But the next person is under a tree, and even though he is within the drone's detection cone, the drone is not within his visibility cone. So what happens if we tilt the gimbal angle? Well, perfect, we can find the person hidden under the tree. But the next guy, we will not see him even though he is within the detection cone, because we are still not with our drone within his visibility cone. And by the time the drone enters his visibility cone, our detection cone has passed him. So what is the compromise? How do we keep the crucial vertical perspective while harvesting as much a gradual angle as possible? A simple solution is to go for the gimbal angle where the bottom of the screen is pointing straight down, while the upper part points forward in a gradual an angle as possible. That way we can see the first guy in the lower part of the screen vertically. And the next guy will not be visible for us at first, but when complementing this gimbal angle with covering the ground from multiple directions, we will see him upon the return. So here's another example. Initially, we won't see the first guy, even though he is within the drone's detection cone. But when the drone and the person's cones overlap, we can see him in the bottom of the screen. While the next person is visible at first, and he will be visible for us pretty soon while we pass him. Practically speaking, for most of the DJI drones in our fleet, we can see that the 75-degree gimbal angle gives us this vertical perspective in the lower part of the screen. So this matches up pretty well across our entire fleet. The visual footprint on the ground forms a trapezoid, and ideally we want this to be as large as possible to cover as much ground as possible while we are searching. However, like I said before, if we choose too high of an altitude, this can result in too few pixels per meter on the ground, making it difficult to see details. Most of our thermal sensors today utilize the 640 by 512 pixel sensor. So a flight altitude of 100 meters or 330 feet has proven to be a good starting point. However, we see year by year an increase in resolution, and already this year the H30T sensor for the Matrice series provides a HD thermal image, allowing us to stretch this flight altitude even further. So here's another example illustrating the gimbal angle while searching for people. The gimbal angle itself is not necessarily enough alone. It needs to be paired with a search pattern to cover the area from multiple directions. So this first lady missing is not visible at first, and she's still hidden by the tree, and the drone will not find her on the first initial pass. The next missing person is also covered by the tree initially, but by the time she appears in the bottom of the screen, she will be visible. The third guy, he will be visible at first, but as the drone passes over, he will disappear because he will be hidden by the tree canopy. And in order to find the first missing person, we have to utilize the search pattern itself in order to get the correct angle underneath the tree. And she will disappear from the picture as the drone passes further. So this is the basic thought about what camera angles we utilize to optimize for searching in between the trees and optimizing the possibility to find the lost people in dense vegetation. And how do we use this in accordance with established search methodology? Norway and a lot of search and rescue organizations around the world are using the bike wheel model as a tool for increasing the probability of searching where the lost person is most likely to be found. The immediate search actions include starting out with a search at the last known location, the initial planning point at the center of the hub. And then we want to search the spokes or the lead lines marked by these blue trails out from the last known position. Along these lines are reflexes or points of interests that might be or that we want to search. And we do have a outer rim to mark the endpoints of the search area. And all of these elements mark different tasks for the drone operator to search. In order to search these guiding lines, we use a guided line search 1, and the number 1 indicates that the terrain is viewed from one angle at only one time. We do this by starting on one side of the road and covering the road out to 60 meters out from the road. And then we cross over to the other side and do a search on the return. And we use the 75-degree gimbal angle and start out with a flight altitude of 100 meters. It's relatively fast, but it's not the most accurate search because it only looks at the terrain from one celestial angle. This is what it might look like in a forested area. The same search pattern can be done in reverse as well. we do it once on one side, search the return, and then do it all in reverse to make sure that we see the terrain from two celestial angles. This is the guiding line search 2 with the round trip. The round trip increases the probability of detection. So it's relatively fast, and it's a good way to search along a trail or a path or a river or some sorts of leading line from the leading line itself out to approximately 60 meters on each side. So this is how it would look in a forested area. And then we have the sector search, a search we implement when we want to search thoroughly around a small area or a point of interest. That might be a cabin, a campfire site, or an abandoned vehicle or something. It has a high probability of detection, covering this small radius from 3 complementary celestial directions. It only takes around 2 to 4 minutes to complete, and every point within this radius is observed then from 60 to 90 degrees towards the ground as the drone passes. And there is also a large bonus overlap on the outside of the circle, but not with the same degree of overlap. It's fairly complex to do manually, so we have collaborated with our software provider on the drones themselves to make this an automated pattern so that we can press play and the drone flies exactly in the pattern we want it to, and also with the gimbal angles and camera adjustments that we need to. So covering a cabin might look something like this. We fly across in the intended pattern, in the inverted star pattern. It will give us a good coverage out to 60 meters from the cabin, and also some bonus coverage on the outside. And we also use, of course, the standard grid search patterns available on most drones already today, but it's preferably complemented by using the 75-degree gimbal angle and the suited above ground level flight altitude. So the parallel search 1 is, it's called 1 again because it only searches every area by covering it from 1 celestial direction. And by having a spacing of around 50 meters, you only get small overlap for each turn. The one stretch covers around 30 meters out to each side, and only having a small overlap. By completing the pattern, you will basically have covered the entire area once. So this is what it might look like in a wooded area. It's very rapid, but not the most penetrating technique through dense forest. So it's most suitable for more open areas. And then there is the parallel search 2, which is basically the same technique, but half the distance between each leg. It's more time consuming than the parallel search 1, but it does have quite a bit higher probability of detection because it sees every point on the ground from 2 opposite directions. So you will first cover one area, and on the return, you will cover half the area from the other angle. And by the time you have searched the entire area, every square meter has been observed from opposite directions. And all of these techniques are again performed by using the 75-degree gimbal angle and at least as a starting point 100 meters AGL.
5 minutes remaining.
Yep, perfect. Lastly, we have the parallel search 4, which basically is a parallel search 2 done twice, perpendicular upon each other. It's very time consuming, but it's definitely the most accurate search pattern we have. So one must use the degree of probability of detection that is needed according to the density of the vegetation. So when the angle is just right, we have done a lot of finds. This here is a missing person from several years ago in the middle of the night, and there's a couple of police officers being guided towards this missing woman. And here you can see a good example of how little trees that actually is needed to make basically anyone invisible. You can barely see a person walking under a regular tree. So the angles need to be right in order to make sure the thermal radiation actually hits the sensor itself. So if we return to the bike wheel model, how can we use drones most efficiently in order to in accordance with the established SAR methodology? If we see the immediate search actions below here, you can see that each of the tasks has one or more techniques that are basically the best suited one for each task. So we try to give our drone pilots a toolbox so that when they are given the task to search around the point of interest, they might choose to use the sector search. Or when given the task to search along a guiding line, they do have a few options there as well. We see in the future that we need to keep improving. We want to do this job even more efficiently, and we see 4 stages of development that we wish to complete. The first one is to define best practices on search techniques and patterns, and this is what we are trying to do with this curriculum that we have talked about today. And then we want to automate these patterns so that the drone pilot doesn't have to fly and can concentrate only on doing the searching job. And then we want to get help or give the task to AI, as the AI systems are as good or better than the human operator. And then it's a matter of copy and paste. If we can automate the process, having the searching done for us, and then distribute the tasks to multiple drones at once, giving a fleet of drones the task of searching a large area. I think I will skip my last slide. It will take a few minutes, and it's more of a bonus slide. So if it suits you well, Wendelin, I think I'll end it here.
We can take 2 or 3 minutes more. Yeah.
Okay. I can just mention that this fall we did a big study involving helicopters and drones in Norway, police helicopters, search and rescue helicopters, and drones from both police and volunteers. We did a big study on how big of a probability of detection each air asset has and how much time they use to cover standardized vegetation areas. So they were given the task to find a large number of missing subjects in both dense vegetation, medium dense vegetation, and an open field. And we collected a lot of data from this, and we are currently in the process of analyzing all these data to identify exactly what type of techniques and search methodology that are the most efficient. So I'm very excited to see how this pans out, and I will be glad to share this knowledge and information as soon as we have it. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Andreas. It was fascinating, really, and very technical, so I really loved it. I have some questions from people. Do you use speaker to make the people move to a proper position?
If I use, can you say again?
Do you use a speaker, audio speaker?
A speaker? No, we generally don't use a speaker. We have had access to speakers before, but generally we focus on staying on the missing person and guiding the rescue personnel to the missing person instead. And oftentimes we resort to using the drone itself as a visible marker for the search personnel to get to the missing person in order to help them.
Okay. And when you find a target, missing people, how do you mark it to guide the rescue team on ground to it?
It's mostly by directing people using the radio and using the drone as a visible marker. For people in the police, we do have an internal system where the drone shows up on the map that they have access to on their phones. But for fire or rescue personnel, we don't have that. That's not an available option for them. So we have to resort to verbal descriptions.
Okay. But to use the drone as a marker, it makes sense and it's easy to make.
Yeah.
Okay. Really a big thank you, Andreas, for your sharing. It was very, very interesting, and hope you will be connected after for IEDO, because there is plenty of things to share about knowledge like yours, for example. So thank you very much.
Of course. Thank you.
I will call the next speaker from Romania, Cyprian and Sabine. Are you ready?
Hi, everyone. I'm here. Do you hear us?
I hear somebody, but I don't know who is.
I'm Cyprian.
Okay. I see you.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. I hear you and see you.
Yes, I'm here. Yes. All right. So should I present my screen now?
Yeah, you can share your screen.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Wendelin. 1 second with the sound.
Perfect. It's working. The floor is yours.
Full screen also working. Everything okay, right?
Right.
Super. Yeah, thank you very much. And by the way, regarding Andreas' speech, we have this book here on the table all the time, Lost Person Behavior from Robert Koster. Reading it a lot and inspiring in order to address and adjust our systems. So I truly recommend this book. So hi, everyone. It's a big pleasure joining you in this prestigious event. We are very happy that we are able to attend also this year. We've met 2 years ago in this conference. We are big fans of drones, and we are using drones a lot in our search and rescue department. Today I'm representing Salvamont, Romania. Salvamont is our search and rescue mountain department in Romania. Salva means rescue, and mount mountain, so Salvamont. And today I'm going to talk about moonlight rescue. Missions that are led with drones during the night in some very, very rough and dangerous terrains in Romania. Just a quick disclaimer, if you see any logos, it's not marketing or advertising. Those are our partners in technology, and we are working a lot together in order to develop innovative projects. So they are not selling anything to us, only sponsorship. So today in this call, I'm with my colleague and my boss in Salvamont, Mr. Sabin Cornoiu, the president of Salvamont Romania. And I'm Ciprian Zanfirescu. I'm the head of drone commission and also the head of technology department for mountain rescue department in Romania. And we've been flying drones since 3 years. We've been developed a lot of projects. But a few words regarding our institution. So Salvamont is the only accredited institution in Romania that is able and allowed to save people on mountains. We have more than 120 years of official mountain rescue activities, 55 years under the name of Salvamont, and my colleagues are around 1,100 mountain rescuers. Some of them are professionals and the others are volunteers. We've been rescued more than 80,000 people in the last 10 years, so a lot of activity, no matter the season or the weather. And we have 45 national public mountain rescue services. Just for an example, in 2023, last year, we had more than 8,026 victims, and unfortunately, around 104 people lost their lives in the mountains directly. So we couldn't interfere in any way because of the risks they assume and because of the area and of the landscape. Other type of information regarding drones. We've started a very nice project 2 years ago, developing a software using AI that is able to detect missing people and clues in pictures. And we have scaled up this project when we have 17 AI drone data analytics centers in Romania. So basically, we are the only country in Europe that is having full coverage with drones with AI. In our dispatch center, 24/7, we have more than 15,000 calls per year, which are developing more than 7,000 missions in the field. Last year, we had 300 drone missions in all of the places. And more than in our portfolio, our colleagues are flying more than 200 drones, aero or water drones. With drones, we were able to decrease the time of rescue by 10 times. And we are supporting also other institutions because the missions are somehow critical in plain ground or in a sub-mountain area where we need to go there because we are asked for. All right, so this is Romania. This is our country. More than 33% of the country is covered by mountains, and we have different type of teams and expertise. We have colleagues that are specialized in rescuing in the caves, from the caves. We have public local services and county local services, which are dedicated on different type of areas and mountains. We have teams equipped with dogs, which are able to rescue from avalanches. We have drone SAR teams and scuba divers rescue teams, which are working together because we are also having flooded caves or mountain lakes, which are dangerous during the winter or even during the summer. We have detection with AI also underwater to look for bodies. National Dispatch Center, local dispatch center, and one national school training center where we are offering the accreditation for rescuers each and every year, twice per year, during the winter and during the summer. So more than 25,000 kilometers of mountain trails, more than 78 ski places and resorts where we need to be present and to offer support to our tourists. And our highest peak in Romania is around 2,544 meters. Regarding the caves, there are over 12,000 in Romania. So 2 years ago, our first project with drones was a very innovative solution, which was developed by me and with my colleagues in partnership with one mobile network operator that I'm also working for. So we've developed a drone that is able to offer mobile radio signal in very, very large areas and in remote areas where we don't have any kind of population or mobile signal. So the operators are not necessarily looking for covering with mobile signal there because there is no population. But tourists are going in those areas to test their strengths and energy and passion, and sometimes accidents might occur. So we wanted to build a solution which is fast, compact, and is a support for the teams, and it can be deployed in a few minutes. So first of all, it should be portable, easy to deploy. We need long autonomy, and we need to respect the legislation, and we need to look only for the people that want to be looked for. So this is the solution presented 2 years ago, but it's more developed right now. We enhance the connectivity. The drone itself is a cell tower, which is able to make coverage on a radius of up to 10 kilometers. We mix this solution with artificial intelligence, and when the mobile signal is not necessary anymore, or the mobile phone is lost or damaged, we are using drones to do mapping, and then ultra-fast processing with a software called SAR UAV, developed with a university from Poland. And this software is able to support us in finding missing persons and clues. In just 2 minutes, we are able to process and detect more than 300 photograms. And then immediately the GPS coordinates are dispatched in the team center, and they're going to look for the missing persons. This is how the photogrammetry is done. Everything is pre-programmed. We are using a lot of DJI drones and also Autel drones, and the planning is done in DJI Flight Hub. We are using computers and dispatch centers in the field. I'm going to show you some examples. And this is just one test. So the software is getting thousands of pictures, and in just a few minutes, it's able to provide the exact location, making a red circle in the area where the person was detected. We've been training this algorithm with tens of thousands of pictures, and it is able to detect also equipment, sports gear, skis, dogs, tracks, anything that should not be in a natural ecosystem. So in a nutshell, flying drones, multiple drones with multiple teams, making the right orientation and distribution of the resources in the field, we are able to decrease the time of rescue by 10 times. Right now, our colleagues, more than 90% of the rescuers, they have a small drone in their backpack while attending a mission, no matter if the drone is necessary or not. So this is the search and rescue kit. We have the mobile signal drone when the case is very, very dangerous or the situation is very, very tough. The mapping drones, the mini trailers with satellite connectivity or with 4G, 5G connectivity, this dispatch center where we are providing live stream data directly on the monitors, and we are getting support from the dispatch center, ultra performant laptops in the field, and of course, multiple applications to process the data immediately. All this work provided very good results. The last 2 months were very heavy for us, and 2 persons were found alive using drones. Those are the examples: a lady, an old lady, and an old man. They went from home for 2 days. They couldn't be found with classical equipment and techniques. And when Salvamont was asked to provide support in just 2 hours using drones, mapping, AI, and thermal vision, those persons were found in those woods. So we can barely see something with our bare eyes. It's almost impossible, but we can see the spots using the thermal vision, and immediately the persons were extracted from those woods. We are very proud of these cases, and because we had the chance to offer a new life for those persons in Romania. So we are continuously developing new technologies. We are continuously using drones, equipping drones with different type of payloads and sensors in order to be there and mix and match everything which is happening in a field. So because the title for today is a night mission, and the way we are using this kind of equipment to guide our rescuers, I'm going to present you some pictures from one of our mission and from other training sessions that we are performing. This is a very, very rocky area in Romania. Those rocky walls are very steep, and they have an altitude of more than 500 meters. We have Via Ferrata there. Tourists are going around and trying to climb those rocks, sometimes because of loss of energy, and because the night is coming, they cannot go back. So we are building a dispatch center, which is equipped on some cars, and we are able to equip our drones in order to support our rescuers in the field. In the first picture, we see a drone with a laser. The laser is pointing towards the rocky walls in order to guide those rescuers to the victim. Then we have a tethering station, which is able to offer unlimited power to the drone through a cable in order to flood the area where we have the dispatch center with light from another drone. We are using different type of drones. Some of them are under 900 grams, some of them are up to 9 kilos, and we also have heavy lifters of up to 30 kilos. So here we have the rescuers. We have another drone that is spotlighting in Nadir in order to illuminate the scene, and the other drone is using the laser in order to point directly through the path that was chosen by the dispatch center for the rescuers to intervene. All the cars that we have are equipped with special equipment, some of them with drones. And when the conditions are very, very tough, we are coming with bigger drones. Like, for example, this one, which is an M300, and we also have M350. And we have dual gimbal and again another gimbal on the top of the drone. Most of the time we are using a thermal vision camera or a night vision camera and a spotlight, very powerful spotlight, in order to those to work in parallel. When we need speakers, we also install some devices, and we have a drone which is able also to get the sound for the victim in order to have dual duplex communication. Those are different examples from our missions. You can clearly see here what's going on when night is falling down and nothing is visible. For the rescuers, it will be very, very difficult to utilize the classical standard equipment. A drone is coming. If Salvamont base is close by, the drone is coming directly from the dispatch center. If not, we need to have the drone in our Jeep. So in the middle of the screen, we have a spotlight, which is making almost day out of this night. And then we are seeing everything on wide, big screens. Some of them are, we are splitting those in two parts, the visible and the thermal vision. And after the software is put in place, we are starting to do the computation of the images, and then the reports are automatically sent through the network in the field. So this is just one example. We rely a lot on drones that are able to fly no matter the weather and the conditions. I have some nice pictures. I've forced the drones no matter what is written in the manual. I wanted to test them very, very hard and harsh to understand if we can rely on such a drone during one night full of rain. We have upgraded all the drones that we have with compatible RC+. We want to have big screens with a lot of nits in order to be able to fly during the night and during the day. One complementary drone which is very, very useful is the M30T, lighter, smaller, but still very, very competitive in this field of activity. And most of the time we are working with drones in parallel. On the M33, we have thermal vision, we have the laser, we have ultra zoom, and additional payloads can be speakers, spotlights, and blinking red and blue lights, which are making the drone very, very visible. This is another example with our main dispatch center, drone dispatch center. We are using this kind of mobile center all the time because we want to take the data from the drone to be visible for multiple persons on the field. On the left side, we have the SAR UAV. In the middle, we have the detection on the laptop that can be performed on the laptop or online in the dispatch center. And on the right part of the screen, we have the thermal vision and the RGB vision. In the right part of the screen, we can see how powerful the spotlight from the drone can be in such a condition, offering safety. So the rescuers are much more confident because sometimes rocks are falling down. Trees can create problems when they are using the stretcher or when they are packing up the victim in a safe way. And this dispatch center is offering the entire connectivity, visibility, and mutual contribution and the connectivity with the rescuers in the field. This is another example. So I prepared a video clip. You're going to see some sequences of what we were seeing in the mission in the field. So the resolution is absolutely fantastic. And here on the screen, it's a big ultra zoom of what we are seeing on the right part of the screen on the top of that peak of the rock, which is around 500 meters altitude. This is one of the team, Mr. Cornoy and my colleagues here. Sometimes we need minimum 2 people operating the dispatch center because sometimes we have dual operating mode for the drone. And if somebody wants to support us, they can work on the processing laptop. On this screen, we have a heavy rain happening last week. We have a very rainy season right now in Romania. We've been flying this drone for more than 10 hours continuously. When I say continuously, I mean the drone is landing, swapping the batteries, and then going back in the field. So the rain was very heavy. The drone was behaving very well. Nothing was damaged, and not even the H20N or H30T, which is the new camera that we've got, which, by the way, has a double resolution in terms of thermal vision. So the details are absolutely fantastic. If the mission is very critical, we are extending and enhancing the dispatch center with another set of 2 monitors in order to see everything based on the application. We have a mobile app, and this app, when it's used by the tourists, we are able to see them on the screens with a blinking dot and some circles. This is the exact position of those tourists, and we know how to send the drone directly to those GPS coordinates using the mapping software. This is the National Dispatch Center. This is the place where people from the office are supporting us in the field. We have another set of processing devices, and here we get more than 15,000 calls per year. I'm going to show you a clip with some images from our drones while in the mission. Yeah, so in such a condition in the field, going a little bit backwards, I want to explain a little bit how we think about such a mission. So first of all, we need to be safe. Being safe means that we need to have everything functioning on a drone. We are using the weather forecast in order to understand if we can fly the drones in a safe manner. From my perspective, wind is much more like is dangerous, much more dangerous than the rain itself. We have flown in the heavy wind most of the time on the mountain peaks without any kind of risk so far. But most of the time we are considering when we're operating the drones. We are not connecting the drone with the AI software because it's the pilot responsibility when it's operating the drone. So one of the drones that is all the time used needs to have thermal vision. Thermal vision with a laser in order to measure the distance between the drone and the detected person. And then we are using spotlights. Sometimes we are using filters in order to create another type of light uh, because sometimes the spotlight, because it has more than 240 watts, is too powerful. So we are adding filters just to guide the rescuers through their path without creating the blinding effect for them. Uh, Most of the missions, we are using speakers on the drones while we are communicating with the rescuers and we are guiding them because we have an overall picture from the drone. But with the new payloads that were purchased recently, we have the microphone that is getting the sound and the voice from the victim. So we have dual communication and a third ground station from another rescuer, which is the man in the middle, in order to coordinate with the missing person or the found person and the drone operator himself. Other type of payloads are parachutes when the situation is requiring that, and lasers. We have two type of lasers: a green laser, which the beam is very visible, and a red laser where you are going to see only a dot. That dot is the spot where the rescuers should head to. All right. So, our portfolio is extended, and we have also drones which are not requiring any kind of GPS in order to look into the caves. Those drones can be operated by rescuers in order to inspect what's going on in one cave, and it's going to do mapping and photogrammetry, and then immediately using a software we can recreate the cave itself and detect if we can see human allure. So this is in the middle with purple. It's a point cloud created from the pictures and the lidars equipped on the drone. The drone is called Helios. It's built in a cage, so we are not going to harm in any way the propellers, and can be used with some repeaters for the mobile signal in order to be able to operate them very far away in the cave. Because we have a lot of cases where we need to be very fast, we are using drones to transport equipment, medical kits, or even food, radio stations to talk with the victims and to tell them, look, we're going to save you. Just stay there, stick on the ground, don't do any kind of dangerous movements. We have used this kind of drones with a release hook. We have 5 release hooks on the drones, and sometimes we are creating a mesh with buoys for the lakes, as we can see in those pictures, in order to be faster than a boat. Then we have water drones and underwater drones when the situation is requiring. In the left side of the screen, it's a robotic buoy with 2 electrical motors, which is 7 times faster than a boat. We have also aerial water drones that are able to land on the water itself And then, you know, on the water, the seconds are crucial. Detectors with artificial intelligence that are able to see if underwater is a human body or is a rock or is vegetation. It marks those points with different colors on the screen, and different type of equipment that we are installing on this kind of drones. This is the underwater drone. It requires an optical fiber in order to be able to inspect and to detect what's going on under the water. And this is again photogrammetry, but on the surface of the lakes, in order to see if we have missing persons or something is floating on the water. The same algorithm from SAR UAV is using those experiments. Again, those are the beginnings when we started to use drones to carry defibrillators. You know that the legislation is not allowing you to drop stuff, only specific. So we are in very good relationship with the authorities, and we started to conduct experiments together and to isolate in a specific way those areas where we are using heavy-duty drones. And even starting to fly in BVLOS because the mountain area is very open, and the signal from the drones is not an issue. Recently, we were able to equip the drones and the controllers with dongles, which are offering 4G and SIM cards. So we have redundant connectivity. When you are using the radio signal from the drone between the controller and the drone, we can see in the dispatch center how the drone is operated, and we can control the drone from the controller through the 4G network. So we are using the 4G base stations from that very drone, the first one, or real base stations in the field, as repeaters to fly beyond vision line of sight in order to get in the area where the dispatch center said that there is a problem. Once again, we have lots of equipment that are operated by our colleagues, and we use a lot of drones that are guiding them. In the avalanches, as I started to explain, we are using dogs, but also technology. Recently, we started to do experiments with RECO in order to install those RECO on devices on the drones, because now they are used and operated manually. But we found out that we can be even faster and much more efficient using drones, and we are avoiding the risk of the releasing another avalanche. Of course, airbags and the entire set and kit of equipment in order to have our rescuers very, very safe. This is one of our base, which is almost in the middle. Okay, which is almost in the middle of the mountain. And when we have an alarm, they're gearing up themselves and selecting the proper car. The drones are all the time charged because we have started to create an electronic system which is charging and discharging the drones with a specific schedule because we don't want to have discharged drones when the trigger is started. All right. Caves rescue, helicopter rescue. We are working a lot with helicopters with EGAV, our National Institution of Flight Aviation, and we started to synchronize with beacons on the drones and with remote ID in order to avoid any kind of dangerous missions together. So in Romania right now, drones are coexisting with helicopters, and we started to work and test this kind of systems together. All right, so this is the presentation for today. 1 minute for questions. You can contact us on LinkedIn or email or just through IEDO. We are available to share our expertise and to build some technology together in order to support the missing persons and to save some lives.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Unfortunately, we don't have time for questions and answers, but you can answer on the chat box to the little questions for you.
And the last thing, we are organizing a mountain rescue congress from the slopes. It's called FIPS. It's going to happen in Romania between 3 and 6th of March 2025 in Sinaia, one of the best resorts in Romania. If you want to join us, please contact us.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Now it's the time for IEDO to make a speech. I hope David is with me. Are you there, David? I don't hear you, but I guess you are there. Of course. Oh yeah. Okay. Just yes. Just a few words about IEDO, because I don't know if everybody know it, the association. So very quickly, like IEDO is an association, a non-profit association by first responders for first responders. We are plenty of firefighters, policemen, but also search and rescue volunteers and doctors, paramedics. But not only that, we have also coast guards, we have customs officers. So we have plenty of first responders around the world. We are a little bit more than 1,000 members from 64 countries today, and we are growing every year, and it's expanding worldwide. So if you want to have more information, feel free to reach our website, IEDO.org. We will reach and see all the information. So the main objectives of IEDO is to promote the drone uses for good, the drone uses for positive things, for good, to save people, but also mainly we are supporting exchanges of knowledge and experience, just like this webinar, exchanging between first responders, and we are trying to be more efficient, more in the efficacy of saving lives or protecting lives. So that's our main core objective. I don't know if John, are you there with us? Maybe not. So maybe I can give some few words. So recently, last October, we made an international police drone training in Germany at Gimborn Castle. It was mainly a law enforcement conference. It's thanks to the partnership between IEDO and the IPA, which is the International Police Association. So we are partners for, I don't remember, like maybe 2 or 3 years for now, and we are organizing projects together. So basically, this International Police Drone Training is one of the projects we are sharing with the IPA. We hosted 12 students, 6 countries for 1 week of training course. And it was to share knowledge, to be more into safety, to develop skills, and to have more information about public safety uses about drones. There were plenty of things like NIST courses, indoor tactical flight training, and basic flight maneuvers. It was very interesting, and also some presentation about the counter-UAS, also crowd management and thermal camera uses. It's very important for us to support international exchanges and mostly in the skills development topic. We had instructors from mainly USA, John Kush, the IEDO Police Commission Deputy about the training, but also Tim Martin, who is an American IEDO member from also a center of training in USA, and also David Danielson, a NIST representative and trainers, who is also the Fire Drone Commission head. And it was a moment of sharing knowledge and discussion about drones uses, tactical indoor operation and things like that. David, are you there? I don't hear you. Maybe your mic is off. I don't know why. Okay, so let's go. The International Drone Best Practices Report. I don't know if you heard about that. This is a project that we developed in 2019 during almost 1.5 with 13 national delegates to gather all the knowledge of best practices from 13 countries in the fire and rescue operation and how we can use drones to make the difference. In 2021, we had the award of IUVSI, first place winner in the public safety category. And it's around 100 pages of best practices in between search and rescue, but also fire management, etc. And in 2022, we made the update with the version 2 report from 14 countries. And actually, we are on the point to release the version 3, the 2024 updates very soon. And it's also accessible on our website for free. You can download this report with plenty of tips. Recently, so as I told you, we are on the point to release the version 3 update, and we had some contributors with update things from Tom Palmers about the use of indoor drones for firefighting operation. So all the tips about using indoor drones for operation during a fire or to make a recon inside a building. So there is plenty of little tips, and also through smoke with thermal camera, for example. We had also some tips and best practices from Dallas Police Department considering crime scene videography, which is very close to any incident videography, how to assess and get the maximum information from an incident scene. So there is a night flight method you will be able to discover in the new report. Also, from as we heard about from Andreas, the Norwegian police have released a white paper on search and rescue. We had recently the presentation from Andreas, and we have asked him if we could implement some content from this white paper into the International Best Practices report, and it was a yes. So thank you very much, Andreas, for sharing your content and your knowledge. So we have maybe not all, but we have implemented main basic tips and best practices. So we have implemented this content into the International Best Practices report. Just a few words about IEDO, because today IEDO is divided in plenty of national and local communities. The first national section was IEDO France from 2021. The second was IEDO Hungary from 2022. And the more recent national section is IEDO Quebec from Canada from the last September. So it's basically official national association created and managing a national community to share knowledge about drones for first responders. But that's not all, because we are working very hard into the within the International Commission to develop and make it official new national section as Bosnia, Brazil, China, Croatia, Germany, Greece, Italy, Ireland, Portugal, and Romania. And as you can see, it's not only European people, but it's really worldwide. And we are pushing very hard effort to build national communities to manage the exchange of knowledge on the national level. But also in the next step will be to be able to share the knowledge on the international level on a very new knowledge sharing platform with a digital library for next year. It will come very soon, and we will all work collectively to make it happen and make a digital place for everybody to share knowledge and discuss in all languages, and to make people connected together. So, as I told you, the very big goal for next year for us is to implement and to gather all people from different national communities into only one digital place, one website, one place to be able to support all exchanges. And I can announce that we will make the annual members meeting for this year, but on the end of January 2025, so next month, we will make the annual activities review, but also the financial review, and we will have the re-election of leadership board. So if you feel that you can maybe be involved more into the management of IEDO, if you are willing to help us, why not consider to apply for a leadership board place? And we will also reveal all our 2025 projects for the next year. Just before passing Michael Leo the speech, do you have any question for IEDO or about my presentation? See, maybe on the chat box. Just yes, what about creating an IEDO THAR commission? There is plenty of things that we are thinking about. It's not defined, it's not decided yet, but we are thinking more and more maybe of creating a social rescue commission, and maybe some committees like maybe wildfire committees or things like that. And that's it. David, are you there with us? Do you want to say some words, or are you fine? I see you, but I don't hear you. Maybe there is an issue with the sounds. Okay, thank you very much. Michael Leo, are you there for the next speech?
I am.
Yeah, perfect. I hear you.
Great. Can you just stay on to make sure that the video is working properly, and I'll start to share my screen now.
So far, I don't see anything from you. It's working. Perfect. So you can go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, this just plays. Okay. Thanks, Vendelin, and thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Hello, everyone. My name is Michael Leo. I am the program administrator for FDNY Robotics. We're a full robotics team, much like Romania there. So we're operating drones, we're operating ground vehicles, and also marine vehicles as well. So today, I'm just going to go over briefly a little bit about our program and concentrate on a few incidents that we had. They were both in 2023, and we continue to go to a lot of fires. We do one thing we do in New York City is a lot of fires. We tend to get a lot of collapsed buildings over time. So we've been at this since 2017 was our operational, but our research and development started in 2014, and the ideas were spun up about 15 years ago about doing this. And one of the reasons was we had robotics in the hands of a lot of rescue workers that really didn't know how to use the technical aspects of the devices. So, you know, we were burning out a lot of radio boards and things of that nature. We realized that we had to have a dedicated unit, which which makes all the difference. So everybody on the team in the New York City Fire Department is dedicated to just robotics. They are trained firefighters that have to do at least 5 years in the field of firefighting, but they come on board into the robotics because most of them have some type of skill other than firefighting, and we try to build out the team not so much for drone operators, but other particular skills such as photography or coding, or somebody might have done a lot of work in LiDAR, and we try to just fill it out where the group kind of helps each other, and everybody is somewhat of a expert in their own right there. So moving on just quickly with operations. To cover New York City, we basically cover the whole city with one of these vehicles. It's nice and small, so we can get into locations. New York City is very crowded. It's not like we can have a big van with a big screen. We're usually blocks away from where we have to be. And so we have 3 of these units. The first one is in service all the time, 24/7. The second one kind of comes in service at events and anytime something special is happening. And then Command Tactical 3 is a unit that works just in the summer. And basically, we patrol the beaches for, people drowning or sharks. And we also monitor like bad rip currents so people don't get in trouble. We work very well with the lifeguards, so it's been very good. And then we have a larger robotics mobile command that will go to the larger incidents that will bring the ability to, edge computing, printing, large format printing, and things of that nature that we need. And then the last thing is the CAR 11X, which is simply our supervisor. So we put a supervisor on all the technical flights or the large incidents to come in. We operate with 4 people at all times. So we have an officer, and that's the team lead, the comms lead. And that is the person that sits at the command post next to the incident commander and basically watches the video. So it's great that you have a drone pilot looking at the video feed, but in New York City, it's very difficult with all the tall structures and all the aircraft. We want them concentrating on operating the aircraft more than looking for something or looking for someone. We like the officer at the command post to do that. The operator, basically, they're charged with just controlling the equipment, and we carry a visual observer day or night because of the landscape in New York City. And then we have a data specialist who basically helps get everything set up. But as everybody here who flies drones knows, most of the time they're just shuffling batteries and making sure the drone keeps going. So they're constantly charging batteries, and at the end they collect all the data, they process it, and they do all the post-processing back at the firehouse. And anytime, like I said, there's a 4th alarm, that's where you get the supervisor and the mobile command. So these are just some of the things we respond to. So far we've averaged about 12 to 1,300 runs annually, but we don't respond to everything. Like every fire. So we only respond to big fires, second alarms. So this year we are contemplating, and this may happen soon, where we may have a second full-time unit, and then we will respond to all the fires, which is going to add quite a bit of call volume. And it's difficult in this environment, because if you fly for a fire for 3 hours, you're usually coming back somewhere to post-process or upload the information into a electronic management system. And this is another area that we know we can streamline, and we're working on that as well, where the data just kind of automatically goes into a management system that we don't have to do it manually anymore, because it's a lot of downtime for us. This is our organizational chart, or I like to call it the responsibility chart of who does what and where. And a lot of people who are starting out, I know that these conferences, sometimes there's a mixed group of people who are just starting out, and then there's some very advanced organizations. but this is how we run it in the New York City Fire Department. It's very basic. And a lot of times, like in the beginning, I was almost every one of these positions, like many of you are right now. So this was important to get down, write it in paper, and figure this out. So this is how we run everything, and it's been working very well so far. And then the incident command. So this was a big problem for us for years too, because you know, I would imagine in Europe you're maybe a little more accepting. In the United States, it was very difficult at first. People really shunned the technology, and over time we just had to put it in front of them for them to see and learn. So we have one of these monitors in front of the command post at all times. We use the direct RF feed directly from the drone to this particular monitor, as well as also streaming it over a network. This way, the incident commander has the lowest latency lowest latency possible, and we're not using a network that could possibly fail. And it seems to be working very well. So here are just some basic fires, some big fires, and some of the things that we've learned, you know, over the last 2-3 years. You know, most of these fires, you could see the tower ladders flowing water from up top, and you can imagine that that person up top really can't see much because of the smoke. So there are openings on this roof that really nobody can see. And let's see. And this is what it looks like from the back where the smoke is drifting. So at this particular fire, we had already known what we know now. So we give every one of these units has a tablet up in the air with them, so they can actually see where they're hitting. And where it really comes into play is in this thermal mode here, where now obviously you can really see what you're doing, where you're hitting. And this is really big at fires because you know, water is very heavy and they're putting a lot of it on, like 800 gallons per minute. And this alleviates some of that, which alleviates some of the collapse potential, and it enables them to get the water on the fire where it belongs. And then we can all go in service. And of course, there's a monetary value in all of this as well. Here's another great fire. This is very recent. This was in Brooklyn, and you can see the main fire is in one of those middle buildings there, and it's from the front of the building to the rear of the building, but it travels to all of the buildings at some point. And this really gives our incident commanders a good look as to what's going on. And we always have the drone always go to the rear of the building where the incident commander might not be able to see exactly what's going on. Okay, so here we go with our two main incidents here. This was a crane collapse. It was in Midtown. It was July of 2023, so it was warm out. There was a heavy fire on the crane. It was over 45 stories high. Nothing really that close to it, but we've never had anything like this. We didn't really know how to react. So I'm going to just play you could see it. Somebody took a picture of this. So it hits the top of the other building. And that had approximately 16 tons of concrete in it when it fell to the ground. It is amazing that nobody got hurt on this. The operator of the crane was able to self-evacuate. Let me see if I can play that again. And then everybody on the ground managed to get away from this before it hit the ground. And as you could see, they were all running. So this was a populated, busy area. This was early in the morning. Here's some information on it. One of the some of the takeaways from this, in the beginning was, landing zones are difficult in these buildings because it's such a heavily populated area. And you have all of the emergency vehicles coming in as well. So you have to be very careful where you're going to operate from. There's many times in New York City and with the skyscrapers that we might operate on top of a building, another building that's close by. If it works out, it takes an enormous time to set that up because we have to bring a lot of equipment up to the top of another building and get access to it with the security team from that building. But we've done that on several occasions. So here's just a little video of what we were facing. This is really just clips of the drone. You can see how ineffective the water was. They were not reaching the fire at all. And right now, they're probably not using the drone. And then finally, we were able to get them the drone video where they can boost the pressure enough to finally hit the fire. And you'll see at the end here, they finally get to it, which took quite some time. But again, this was something that we've never really had before or had to think about before. So, I mean, it worked, and eventually that fire would have maybe burnt itself out, or maybe more of the crane collapses. So we were happy with the outcome. Everything worked well. Some of the issues that we had in this incident. So when you have your, here are the pilots. So that's Steve Millett with the red hat flying it. So we get a lot of chiefs, and you see the mayor is in the photo to the left, and they are always inquisitive about what is going on or what they can see, and they don't realize that this isn't the place to do that. They need to go to the command post to see the video, because now we have somebody flying very, very high, very difficult flight, a lot of helicopters, a lot of news helicopters coming in, and so I was called into this, thankfully pretty early. And when I come as the supervisor, we do several things. And my main job is deconfliction of aircraft. I don't have any authority to do so, but it sometimes is easy when you just work with the FAA or air traffic control. So I was able to call the air traffic control tower, ask for a little more distance from the press helicopters, and they quickly managed that for us, and it was no problem. I also was quickly able to isolate the flight crew so nobody would talk to them and bother them while they were flying. And I brought them over to me where the command post was. And then the third thing, if there was an emergency, like an in-air emergency, instead of the officer or the team worrying about it, I automatically take over that portion of what we do. So the next event was, this is just showing some of the ground robots that we have now. And this is the segue into the collapse that we had. So you see some of the older robotics on the bottom left hand. This slide came from showing the media and the press that we always had robotics with the same capabilities. But once we got the spot robotic capabilities, it became a little of a problem with the public, because they've never seen such a thing before. And so we had to reassure them that the only difference was the way they maneuvered. We still had robotic arms. We still had all the same sensors. But now that they had legs, they were able to go upstairs better. They were able to go on subway tracks better. And for us, the use of ground robotics lays more in the hazardous materials realm, where we can put sensors on these and possibly go long into tunnels and have the ability to have an arm to, fix anything that we have to fix, turn any valves, or mitigate any type of incident we can with an arm. So this also happened in 2023. This was in April. It was a 4-story parking garage, and we happened to be very close by training, which was a godsend, because we, like I said, we only have one unit in service at all times. But this day we had a full exercise, so I had almost everybody on my team with me in Manhattan. We were probably about 15 blocks away. And as soon as we heard the run come in on the radio, we automatically just went for it. So there was no delay. So sometimes you just get lucky with your position and where you are. So this was the first time we ever used this. So this was the first time we ever used this technology, and it was also the first time we had multiple robotic teams operating at an incident. And it was while we were standing out front with the incident commander, another collapse occurred. Now, we already had people in this building very quickly. They came in, they came out real quick. So once the second collapse happened, they didn't want to send anybody else inside the building. In fact, we had a search dog next to us, and they didn't even want to send the live search dog in. So that's where we opted to send the robotic dog in, and it ended up to be okay. It wasn't the intention to use these for collapses because they really can't hurdle over large debris like you would think. They could go up little steps, maybe a foot or so, maybe a little more than that, but they don't do well. And one of the things in this incident that happened was the robot went up on a piece of rubble and fell down, and somebody caught it on tape and kind of tried to say that. But the beauty of these robots is they just get back up again, which was very useful. So Steve Millette was also the operator of this at this event too. He's the I guess the bad luck guy. But this was in a very difficult area because, as you could see, it was surrounded by much larger buildings. So it's very difficult to operate in these areas. Like our drone team came in, and you had to operate in ADI mode the whole time. So they didn't have any station keeping or global positioning satellites to keep their drone in place. They had to do it all by hand, which is very difficult. And this is why we train to this level. So this is a little bit about the Ann Street collapse and when it happened and how it happened. We did have one victim that was deceased inside of the building that we found. But, you know, one of the things that we tried to do, obviously, is sense of placement, because that's everything. You know, we wanted to get the thermal to make sure that we could find anybody that, you know, would throw off some heat signature. We had acoustic devices on the robot, and then, of course, the regular cameras. We came in later with LiDAR on the drones, you know, just for a good structural assessment, which was very useful to the Department of Buildings. And so much so that we were able to have a team enter the building once we deemed it was safe to extricate the victim. And then we also flew inside as well, which we'll see in a minute. So here's the video of basically the entire incident. And like I said, there's much bigger buildings all around it. It was a parking garage, and luckily, you know, there was only one fatality because this could have been a lot worse. The teams on the ground did make one save, which you'll be able to see in a minute. You could see that guy stranded in there, and they were able to get him out. And this part here is just amazing how great this technology is. And like I said, this was over a year ago, and we were able to fly everywhere. So this video is actually from the NYPD. They were able to fly this for us. We had Mini 2s at the time, and this is the Nevada. And the difference was incredible because the Mini 2s just got kind of blown away with the wind shears. I apologize for the noise. It's we have a run in the background. So this was incredible. We were able to get all over, kind of make sure that there was no one else in the building, send all this information to other people that needed it. And then we learned a lot of lessons off of this. you know, some of the lessons that we learned, you know, especially for me running it, was that when we start performing these incidents with multiple teams, it's very difficult for myself, even as the supervisor, and we were somewhat prepared. So we watched what happened in Florida at the Surfside collapse, which was, you know, much, much bigger than this, but very difficult to handle once you start having multiple robotic teams come in. And then everybody starts offering their help, and then you don't know their capabilities. And so this is all the things that we're starting to work on, with obviously standardization, which is big across the globe, obviously. And how are we going to know what other teams have and what their capabilities are? And then how are we going to manage them? So one of the things, you know, I learned in front of the building, I really needed my headset on the whole time. It was so noisy. It was so hard. And I think we had 3 or 4 drone teams in operation at one time, and the ground team going at one time as well. And then you also have to listen to what the incident commander is looking for, as well as the other firefighters or rescue personnel on the ground. And then any other, looking at, so when we do this, we're looking at ADSB, which is the flights, the traditional aviation flights around us, to making sure that no one is encroaching, and all while trying to manage the drone team that's flying in ADI mode, which is very difficult to begin with. So I realized that the management of these operations really needs to be looked at, and which is probably a whole genre in itself within the robotic community. And it's something that I think we need to start educating ourselves and building out proper curriculum for these types of events. And here's my information by email. You can email me with any questions. One of the reasons why we couldn't share too much information on these 2 events, especially the parking garage, is because it goes to like the law enforcement end of things. So we kind of had to vet out any information we shared, and some of that is still kind of under investigation. So we kind of shared what we could share, and I think that you know, overall we did what we could, but we could do a lot better in the future.
Well, thank you very much, Michael. It was very, very interesting, and obviously we already knew it, but once again, drones can evaluate and assess, you know, the action, if it's effective or not, like the water jets on the crane. But also drones are going where nobody goes, you know, like under the collapse. So it's a really great use case that you are sharing with us.
Yes, in the beginning of this, they actually got on the radio and asked all the helicopters to keep their distance, because it was only making the fire worse, and the drones could get underneath the object where the helicopters obviously couldn't. So it was definitely a great first for many things, but mostly for the collaboration of everything with traditional aviation, with drones, with the firefighting forces. So it worked out well.
Yeah, thanks again. David, you want to say some words? No?
Hello, everybody. I finally got on. It's the thing about technology is you can't trust it when you got to be on a meeting with Vendelin. I just want to say real quick for Mike Leo, if he's still on, thank you, brother. It's great to see you guys working. FDNY has always been a leader here in the United States, helping us all along with their lessons learned. Certainly working in a metropolitan like Manhattan presents very unique problems, and just really excited to see more coming from FDNY and Mike's team. I think you covered all my stuff, Vendelin, so thank you.
Yeah, that's okay. I have maybe a little question for Michael. I would like just to know if did you deploy in the same time dogs and drones?
Yes, for the building collapse, we had the. Oh, you mean regular live search dogs.
At the same time.
No. So that was the question before we went. They didn't want to even, because of the secondary collapse, they didn't want to risk the dogs' lives either. So that's why we went away from that.
Okay. Yeah, I know for a lot of first responders, the next step is robotics, like drone robotics and maybe aquatic robotics. But also the next step beyond the third steps, I think, will be the collaborative action of drone robot and air robots, like drones, because you can watch your dogs moving and facing stuff. So I think it's the third step, but it's very far away from a lot of people. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I really appreciate, Michael, and as usual, it was very, very interesting. The next speaker is Dr. Jackie Chan from Hong Kong, from China. Hi. I don't know if you are there. Hi. Perfect.
Yeah, I'm here, but I know it's not so good. So can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay. I apologize that your network is not too stable, so I make it in the video. But I will be here for Q&A. Hello?
Yeah. Effectively, the sound is not good, but as you mentioned, you have sent me the video of your presentation. So
yes,
what is the plan? That I'm running the video, and then you will answer some questions.
You run the video, and I answer question here. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, I will run the radio just right now.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jackie. Today is my honor to share with you about how the medical people using the drone. And I'm going to introduce my research team because my team medical assessment is born by small aircraft because my plane. Other me, there are Dr. Yip and Dr. Mock. They are nurse pharmacies. Yeah, it will drag into around 1 minute, so don't know why when it happened when compiled. To a second slide. So yes. 3 minutes. I will show you about our backgrounds, what the literature findings in medical, and how healthcare people using the drone, and what could be a pinpoint in Hong Kong, how do we use, and what research we are doing. I think all of you are familiar with drones, and I do not go into details on this slide. And the most important for medical people is we are improving the response time in emergency situations, and it helps the efficiency logistics. So in coming few slides, those are the research from Medical Journal. And you will see that it's the Japan group. They designed an aerial
remote triage system using a drone to fly to the disaster area to see how many patients in red or in yellow or in green. And some people are using the drone as the telemedicine support. I will show you more in the coming slides. And of course, the more familiar with all of you could be using the drone in the automated external defibrillator delivery. When you're going to the Google Scholar, when you put in Nature Review Medical Drone, you will see a lot of the paper. And you will see the paper is going and going up and more.
Sorry for the technical issues.
So this slide is about when you are interested on how the medical people using the drone, you can just go to the Google Scholar, you type in medical drone. There are a lot of the research and showcase how do we using it. Yeah.
I'm going to relaunch the video to see if it's working there.
Google Scholar, when you put in Nature Review Medical Drone, you will see a lot of the paper. And you will see the paper is going and going up and more publication. So not only police, environment, but also medical are using a lot of drone. But what could be the majority? First, let's discuss about what is the role of drone in medical care. I think all of you are familiar with this disaster management cycle. It includes prepare, respond, recovery, and then final visitations. Drone take a very important role in the response. And the next step could be not only medical people, we are going to think how do we train up the volunteer to do the job better. And the second concept about the role of drone in medical care could be we call PEMS. Because drone cannot send the patient to the hospital, we still need the ambulance. Therefore, we are using a drone to shorten the response time. We call this PEMS concept. EMS stands for Emergency Medical System. And then in medical drone, usually we will define in 3 different types or 4 different types. The first 2 types, I think you all are very familiar, could be the search and rescue that a lot of previous speakers share with you. And the next you hear a lot could be the transport delivery, such as deliver some products, AED, something like that. And the people seldom mention is about using the drone for remote telemedicine care. And other people are grouped in the 4 types of the drone. The difference could be about the delivery drone and the hospital drone. The major difference could be the delivery drone is about sending the drone to a rural area or far more distance. And hospital drone means, for example, hospital campus is so large, it's sent in between the buildings, building blocks. It's such a short transport area, and the route is much more fixed. But the people why ask, why is healthcare professional not an engineer? Because it involves a lot of medical decisions, such as, for example, you find a drone, you have to make the medical decision about who is the most ill, most critical cases. And then you allocate your medical resources. And second could be, we want to better utilize the people. It takes a long time to train a drone partner to do a medical stuff, but it could be a little bit faster to train the medical people to find the drone. So we try to automate the use of limited manpower. And of course, if when the drone find to there, they involve some clinical expertise, which required to make the clinical decision. For example, do the patient is breathing, the patient is quickly ill, so we have to send a helicopter, or actually the patient is okay, so we send the ground team to go to the patient by hours. So as a healthcare professional, we are the user of the drone in the medical. We have 2 big ping pong in Hong Kong. The first could be the missing patient, the dementia patient. Not all of the dementia patient will be stay in hospital. Usually they will discharge to home care by relatives, or they may go to OH home. But sometimes they will roll around. If lucky enough, it still roll around in the urban area. But if they go to the hill, go to the mountain, then it's quite hard to find them. And the second could be we have the trial running race yearly every week, even in the summertime. And the trial race usually on the mountain, which is hard to achieve how to go by the vehicle, and therefore we are thinking to using the drone to shorten the response time. So what drone team is using? We are using the drone as light as we can. The first, of course, you're all familiar with the Mi 4 Pro. This is a super good drone, but the only pain point is it can't be programmed. If your team want to using the computer to or third-party apps to program the drone, then you have to downgrade to go to buy the Mini 3 instead of Mini 4 because the SDK is still not available. We are using the M30T for the thermal camera, and in case of this is ringing. So this is the most light waterproof drone that we can have. And we also have the Avatar, because Avatar have a very good loading and the weight ratio. The payload, it can achieve around 50% of the drone itself. And the fourth, we are using the DJI M200. People will wonder, hey, that is M350 released already. Why we still do the M200? Because of the law. In Hong Kong, drone law need to keep us below 7 kilograms. If above 7 kilograms, it need a special approval. And of course, some insurance, a lot of the issue. And then as a research team, so we try to make the thing simple. As an M200, even it have the 1.6 kg payload, is still below the 7 kilograms. But the M350, the drone itself already 6.5, so it's not optimal for us. And then we submit some research funding to thinking about the 5K30. This is our research space. This is High Island Reservoir, which is the east part of the Hong Kong. And then the most best thing is there are 0 residents. And there are around 80 search and rescue cases per year in this country part. So the caseload is not too much, and the area is no residents, so we can fly wherever we want. So it's very safe space and nice. Our team operate in a model. We divide the drone service in 4 parts. The first part could be research. We have research using the beacon. We screw it in the clothing and then find the drone with the sensor to try to search the beacon. And then we also have the assessment. We call MED, which we'll illustrate in the next slide. And then we also, the third could be delivery, and finally could be the coordination. For the first part, we call the project, we call it FAST, Focus on Area Search Tactics. In traditionally, people will fly the drones and in a Z-shaped circle, it still works. But we are doing research, we try to make it more focused and searching the point of interest first. And there are different types of the thermal cameras in different patterns. There are still no research to mention about which pattern could be most efficient for the search and rescue and most helpful for the ground team. I'm going to highlight one point I share with you is these groups. These groups are intentionally using a back umbrella. And then in the front camera, it highlights because the back color will absorb energy. So it highlight in the front camera and make more easy to search the people. The second project we nearly complete is we call medical evaluation of drone. This is a scripted medical. We fly the drone to the people, like these photos, and then the people at the remote area, and then use the walkie-talkie to discuss to us the case about what is his condition. And then the patient, if he is conscious, he just raise the hand, shake hand to reply yes or no. And then we assess the airway, breathing, circulation, and disability. And we also able to check the neck, the abdominal, any injury and fall limb as well. And you may wonder if we are teaching the people to check pulse while drunk, is it accurate? Actually, this is not a new thing. This is a research done by we call MPDS Micro-Priority Dispatch System. When you are causing the emergency line, some country they will have we call PO dispatch advice, or they have the micro-priority dispatch. They ask you some questions, include some patient assessment. So this research show the people, if it collapses in the high school or in the library, in overall area or in university, no matter it's male or female, they can check the pulse in very accurate within around 20 seconds. And this box is about how the layman, the people, they don't know how to check the pulse at all. It's throwing the phones to teach them how to check pulse and compare with the echocardiogram, with the medical machine. And then now you can think we have drones, we have the video, so we can very clear to zoom in to see the hand is correct or not, where it put. So the accurate is also the same. Of course, using this one, we also have a lot of opportunities, like we can see why is the patient. However, there is also some charge, like the people we charge about their privacy. And because when we can see the video, we can see the patient, the dispatcher or the people to respond will be more higher emotional impact. And of course, the always challenge could be the network. In country part, usually the cell phone may not be good. So the connection is always a challenge. This is another project we call Dream, which is using the drone to doing the delivery. So there is Overwatch drone at top, and then we send avatar, which are having a mobile phone at the back. So you see the avatar having the phone at the back. Yeah. And then, other than our team, what other medical people doing about on medical use drone? There is a research about dispatch the AED. There is a very good paper to summarize the finding from US, Sweden, and Canada about the challenge, how did they do, what could be the best, what could be the best practice. So you can see it's also the concept of the PEMS, and it using the drone to deliver AED and make it faster than the EMD and the EMS arrive. And other people is design another VTOL drone. You see the medical kit like a capsule, and then inside there could be an AED, there are the ventilation medications, and also the naloxone nasal to save the lives. And another teaching team is using the drone to doing the tourniquet delivery. And you see that using a drone and then put the things in a small paper box, and the box delivery to the patient at the mountain. The result is very promising. And then what could be our next and what could be a challenge? We have another project called drone. drone respond in organized network for emergency. That in the EASA, there are some suggestions about the use space utilization. You see that the type EZU, the type EZA, and the type X to mention about different type of the Class G airspace and how do we fly the drone for the emergency. Because in long run, we believe other than us, there is also other citizen or recreation use drone. If we are not well defined about the airspace, it could be a very high risk of crash. Of course, our team also suffer from the gap and barriers. For example, this is the non-flying zone by the Civil Aviation Department. The red run here, of course, you see the sweet logo is the airport. And then the Victoria Harbour is confined. Lucky that our airspace is here and it's okay. But of course, you need to fly at night. We also need to get the advanced operation permit, which usually takes around a week to process. So that's all of my sharing, and hope you enjoy what our medical people to using the drone in the medical aspect. Thank you very much. And if you have any questions, please feel free to WhatsApp me or email me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For this presentation. I have already a question in the chat box. Have you evaluated Doppler radar to evaluate heart and lung activity from a drone?
May I? Let's see. How do I see a chat box?
Yeah. Have you evaluated Doppler radar to evaluate heart and lung activity from a drone?
Because in Hong Kong, we do not have the remote ID, so we do not know any other recreation zones or other people nearby. That's why we need the visual observer or the airspace observer to check it.
So for you, it's not so easy.
Yes, so it's not easy. But we keep on trying, but lucky until today there are no drone crash. Usually we see there is someone paying. We are trying to use the aeroscope before, however, sometimes they are really, we're not sure why the aeroscope also not able to detect them. But it is one of the things that we are always concerned. And one thing I could share could be in Hong Kong, the big issue is the bird strike. We have a lot of birds when doing the drone mission. So we always need to install the flashing light, not because of the visual, it's just because of make the bird aware of our drone.
Okay.
Yeah. I could like to share 2 points. One point could be I got the fan Sparrow, the one of speaker of today. This is he fly to Hong Kong to train up us to using drone. The second I could to share could be about using the AED for the delivery. Nowadays, the AED can be very light. It can be light as 480 grams only. So it can be carried by the M350 very easy. So if people are doing the research on that one, they may consider using the most light AED rather than the current 2 kilograms, 3 kilogram things. It could be more easy. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks again for your sharing, Jackie. And if anybody wants to be in touch with you, I will try to help and connect you with those people. Thank you very much again. The next and last speaker is Tony from London. Are you there, Tony?
Hi, Wendelin. Hello, everyone.
Yeah, I hear you. Great. How are you?
Not too bad, not too bad. So I've prepared, first of all, thank you for inviting me for this very interesting webinar. I've been following most of the speakers. Very interesting use cases, and it's very important to share knowledge and understanding with the use of drones in different sectors, especially in the emergency services and all. So I will apologize in advance. I'm working in an area in my building where they're doing some fire testing, and that's been going on quite often. So if you hear an alarm, it's just a test, but probably it's going to just bother us for a few seconds. So let me share the presentation with you. Can you all see?
Yeah, it's working. Perfect.
Okay, so London Search and Rescue. I will give a very short introduction about what is London Search and Rescue and what is linked to in the United Kingdom. So search and rescue, like in every country, there are numbers of agencies and search and rescue associations. Everyone has a defined geographical area of operation. So starting from the mountain rescue. For the air, we have in particular the Royal Air Force. Lowland Rescue, which is what I belong to as a volunteering association for flat areas across the country. For caves rescue, we have a cave rescue association. And for sea, we have the Maritime Coast Guard and Lifeboat. So in the United Kingdom, UKSAR is the UK government-led program that coordinates all the search and rescue efforts across the country, and we provide as a whole, all the agencies and associations, we respond to emergency services, both, as I mentioned before, mountains, land and sea and air. The various agencies, associations are described here. So it's numbers of agencies and organizations, police forces, the Maritime Coast Guard, search and rescue associations, lifeboat, ambulance associations, and fire service association. As I mentioned before, Lowland Rescue is what I'm part of. So we're going to focus now on Lowland Rescue. Lowland Rescue across the country is made of 36 association. So every county in the United Kingdom, they have their search and rescue team that operates in their geographical space. As a whole, we are around, I hope the figures are still correct, around 1,800 members, and we are part of the UKSAR. London Search and Rescue, we normally call it LONSAR to make it shorter. We have a varieties of specialist teams. Every member that volunteers for LONSAR has to be, first of all, a search and rescue technician. That is going to be the first entry of specializations. With time and with also interest, any volunteer can then join and specialize in a particularly specialist department. Like in this case, I'm part of the drone team as the drone lead. Just to give you some figures, this was given to me recently. So for 2004, we had an overall of 26 incidents, mainly and only because our mission is to search for high-risk missing people, supporting the Metropolitan Police for us in London. We have conducted so far 84 exercises, varieties of exercises that goes from full team exercise to specialist team exercises as well. We also attend a number of events, most of them at fundraising, as you all can imagine, a charity or association. We all trying to obtain support from a variety of organizations to make the association moving forward. At the moment, we have 99 active members. They're all qualified. Every search technician has to be requalified every year. Let's focus now in London, because we're talking about the city. When you think about search and rescue in a city, there's a lot to talk about the areas that we operate. We don't operate in urban areas, but we are, if the request is given to us, we concentrate in open space and parks across London. And London is very rich of these areas. As a city, it's made of around 9 million people. In size, we're talking about over 1,500 kilometer squares, all spread across 32 boroughs, including also the City of London that is right in the middle of London. We have around 3,000 parks and public spaces for an overall of 35,000 acres of space. We have hundreds of rivers, canals, and reservoirs and lakes in London. So you can see from the map, there's a lot of space, green space and water space between the city and across. So an overall of 40% of green spaces and open water is part of London. So let's focus now for the drone team, because this is what we want to talk about. The drone team, like any other search and rescue, provides mainly aerial situation awareness, mainly for our main mission, which is to search for high-risk missing people. We have to abide by the UK Civil Aviation Authority regulations. So the distances, like everyone knows, is 500 meters visual line of sight. So there are restrictions, but depending about the drone that you use with the sensors, there's much more scope about extending that search by utilizing optical zoom cameras if that is needed. The areas that we cover are large open areas with low or sporadic vegetation, large open areas with high grass, and I will mention something in one of the next slides about this particular type of search. Wooded areas with sparse or no canopy cover, over reservoirs, along rivers, and urban environments. There are times, because parks are all between and urban areas, there might be a need of extending that search area towards urban environments, maintaining those distance that the regulations dictate in the United Kingdom. Additionally, we deploy the drone to conduct surveys and assess areas for risk before the ground teams are deployed. And it's very, very important to provide this capability because that can give, through the aerial situation awareness, much better understanding to assess an area that needs to be searched. So areas where the ground team finds obstacles, and the example could be a gate, fences, or any other natural or artificial barrier. Regions with natural obstacles, dense vegetation, or rugged terrain. There's been a lot of situations where we have guided the search team and the team to find the optimal area of entry in a dense vegetation area. This is the drone that we're using mainly, the DJI M3T. I consider this drone exceptional because it's compact, can be transported very easily in a backpack, but it's the sensor that is providing that major capability, which I will provide a number of examples in the next few slides. So in terms of capability, the average with this type of drone is around 30 minutes of flying. Depends about how much you're flying, because that reduces the consumption of the battery. Operation range, as mentioned before, we are dictated with 500 meters distance from the remote pilot. The efficiency is very interesting when you specifically compare the ground team versus the drone. We have use cases where we have done a lot of trials where we can say for sure that the use of drone searching an area is 1/3 compared to conventional ground search techniques with search members. Real-time mapping, the remote pilot can pinpoint the missing person position in real time and provide precise grid reference. Thermal images, which is a greater capability, can detect spots and heat signatures, and further investigation can be done. This particular drone that we're using has a very, very high resolution thermal camera, despite the small size. Optical zoom, another fantastic capability, can identify small objects. The type of hybrid sensors is 56 times optical zoom camera. Flight permission, this is something that I'm very proud. You can imagine London is a city, is the most busiest airspace in the United Kingdom. So there's a numbers of airports between London, and there are a numbers of flight restriction zones. Live streaming, we provide live streaming directly from the drone to the instant command vehicle, and I have a slide that will explain a little bit more about that. Now, when we compare the use of drones and where the drone can replace an helicopter, the drone cannot always replace an helicopter, but can make, let's say, operational life easier to mitigate when the drone can be used rather than using the drones. The information that I got here below is an average for what the National Police Air Service in the United Kingdom has as numbers of flying hours dictated by their budget. So for 1 hour flight of a police helicopter, that costs £2,000 per hour. Now, police forces have a budget. They have a budget that is more or less 1,000 flying hours, which is equal of 2.75 hours of flying per day. Going back with the flight permission, you can see on the map on the right the numbers of airports, airdromes, or heliports and flight restricted areas that we have in London. So you can see there are quite few. So in order to have a, as we call it, a pan-London aerial capability, I managed back in 2021 to obtain for each airport and restricted areas a permission that is 1 year long and is 24/7. There is a numbers of SOPs that I have to follow for each individual airport. So if there's going to be a search between one of these flight restriction areas, I have a protocol to follow, and it's quite interesting because the type of protocols that I've agreed with each airport is about contacting the air traffic control to ask permission to take off and land, even if it's not very close to the airport. But it's an SOP that is very important when we talk about awareness in the sky, especially if it's going to be between the flight restriction areas. These airports need to be aware what is happening in their surroundings. And this is the list of the airports and airdromes and heliports that I have these permissions. Every permission is different, depending about if they are independent airports or they belong to NATS. NATS is the National Air Traffic Service that we have in the United Kingdom. And the 157 to 159 areas are mostly in central London. Lowland Rescue, when we talk about standardization of the use of drones, in 2021, the National Operational Standard was created. These are internal qualifications to be added on with the remote pilot qualifications that every pilot has to have. They have to be certified by training service providers before anything else. But inside the NOS, there's a numbers of areas that you get enhanced type of specializations in certain areas, which are listed here below. So we have the level 1. So for those that are interested to understand between our association the use of drones. We have an online webinar, and it also gives an understanding how the remote searcher operates in the drone team. Level 2, this is specifically for drone observers. So there's a particular type of training followed by an assessment to qualify search technicians to become drone observers. Level 3, we don't operate in the A3 subcategory, but it's there just in case it's needed. For London, it's not a category that we need to fly into. Then moving on with the qualification, which is the A2 COC, the certificate of competency, is the level 4. And level 5, which is the specific category, this is where we operate in London. London Search and Rescue Team has an operational authorization that has been approved by the UK Civil Aviation Authority. And that gives a numbers of additional options to assess and fly in London. So how the drone team of London Search and Rescue is made of? In a very simple way, I describe it that we have a incident control vehicle. I will have some pictures to share with you about our new vehicles. And this is the minimum team required for an operation. So we have the remote operator that flies the drone. We have at least, and I say at least, one drone observer to maintain that visual line of sight of the drone, and the remote searcher. The remote searcher works hand in hand with the remote pilot, because with the use of a additional tablet, he has view of what the drone sensor is observing. Sometimes we have more than one drone observer, because as you can think, in a park in London, most of the time there could be areas where there are numbers of members of the public which are not part of the operation. So the drone observer is also acting to make the members of the public aware that there is a drone, and we have to make sure at all times that we have to maintain that separation distance from people not involved in the operation. This is our incident control vehicle. We have this year 2 brand new incident control vehicles. As you can see in one of the pictures, you can see the inside of the vehicle that has a numbers of working stations, but also numbers of screens. Most of them are linked to a computer, but we also have screens that they can be dedicated for a particular type of task. And one of them is linked to our live streaming. We also have a screen outside, which is mainly utilized to brief members of the public before deployment. And it becomes very, very useful to provide a good snapshot of the area of operations where each team is going to be deployed. We fly both day and night. As you all know, flying at night requires skills. It can be very complicated, but especially with today's drones, with the use of thermals and infrared cameras, life becomes a little bit much easier, because you can make that informative judgment of your surroundings, because we're talking about flying at a certain altitude above tree line. But it's not just about tree lines. London has a huge network of power lines. So part of the assessment pre-flight is to understand your surroundings, but having that capability to fly at night, it helps a lot, not just for the search, but also to maintain a level of safety for a flight. Flight plan. We have a particular type of portal called Drone Desk. Drone Desk has created a specific flight plan for search and rescue. So it's not part of the usual standard flight plan that every commercial pilot has access if they become subscribers of Drone Desk. It's very intuitive. It helps a lot to build a flight plan because it's very, very important that the flight plan is put in place, because when we talk about accountability, and I will mention the word accountability quite often, is to document that each flight has been organized and conducted safely by making an informative risk assessment, a informative pre-flight plan, and all the other informations that can be found in one place only. Just to make you understand a little bit more why I'm talking about accountability, we deploy on behalf of the Metropolitan Police. So they deploy us, they give us the intelligence of the missing person, and we work hand in hand with this police force throughout the entire deployment of the search. Let's move on with camera capabilities, which is something that I'm quite impressed about this drone that we're using. So I'm going to give you an example about just how far this drone sensor can go. So you can see in this picture, I'm observing a building that's quite far away. So halfway through, 28 times zoom, this is what you can see. So you can see already some particular features of this building. So with the 56 times zoom, this is how clear you can see this building. So usually with this particular slide, I always ask how far that building might be. But in this case, I'm just going to tell you straight away. So we're talking about almost 1,700 meters distance on a straight line. It's a great sensor. I consider this particular drone capable of providing capabilities that they can be utilized for our particular type of operations. This is another example. So when we conduct aerial searches, that we are searching an area of interest, we're also looking for what we normally call with London Search and Rescue for clues. So a missing person might or might not leave behind something that belongs to them. So everything that attracts the operator observing the screen, there has to be a moment of check. So this is when zoom then can verify when you see something that you consider a clue, and you need to have a closer look about what we're looking at. And this is what was detected. So this is a can, a submerged can, and we could see literally the brand of this can. And this was doing a real search. Unfortunately, the missing person was found in this canal, not too far from where this picture was taken. So live streaming is becoming more and more a capability that can help not just the drone team, but can also help the search manager team that operates inside the insect control vehicle. The reason why live streaming is very important, because having that shared view of the area that the drone searches, more informative and quick decisions can be made on the ground. So providing that footage, the search manager can, for instance, redeploy a team very quick. They know the location, which is through the help of live streaming. We utilize a company called Drone Control. Drone Control is giving us this capability that when it's activated, and we are talking about a URL link that the Drone Control first responders has created as an app, third-party app, that you can fly the drone and you can operate the live streaming through a drone system. So when it's activated, then Search Remote member has full view of what the drone is searching. Having a tablet, having a bigger screen, there's more opportunities to look carefully what the drone is observing. Everyone knows about the screens that certain drones have on the remote control. So the bigger the size of the screen, the more that becomes helpful. But not only for the remote searcher, we're talking about screens that they are utilized in the insert control room. So we're talking about monitors of a certain size, which we can have another operator that can be dedicated to work inside this vehicle. So we have two members most of the time, not every time, depends about the type of deployment that we are being sent to. But having that opportunity to share that footage helps not just the team that operates the drone, but also the decision makers and also the police, that they can actually have full view of what the drone is looking at. Here you can see that there's a person. It's quite obvious that the person can be spotted. Definitely cannot be spotted from the ground because of the surroundings and the vegetation where this person is. But when we talk about non-natural colors, this is where, and we're talking again about clues, the drone operator and the remote searchers are attracted to do further investigation. Sometimes it's not always like in this case, where this color is pretty much obvious. Oh, sorry, you can, for some reason it's not working, but not too far from this person wearing a red jacket, there is another person that, because of the type of clothing that that person is utilizing, and if not mistaken, is pretty much close to a olive green or gray color, cannot be seen. So it's very, very important to become inquisitive when you see colors that they're not natural. And that could result in the finding of a missing person that definitely the search ground will not be able to see. The use of thermal camera is a great capability for us. We all know why. I'm going to just run this video. This is an operation that we conducted 2 years ago. This was a young person that was attacked by a gang. He was in an open area in London. He managed to hide himself in a very confined area, and he could not find his way out because of the vegetal obstacles that there were in the area. When the alarm was raised, his voice could be heard, but we could not. The initial responders could not identify exactly the area. And this is one of those rare occasions where the drone was brought in to find the person, to then direct the team on the ground to rescue this person. Sorry. Let's see if I can. For some reason, it's not wanting to play. Oh, there you go. So you can see very clearly why that person was stuck. And with the use of drone that then video recorded the entire operation, I was managed to able to locate the exact positions and then direct the team that they had to use a little bit of imagination to find a way to transport him. The young person was injured and he was struggling obviously to move forward. So with a number of ladders and the use of a stretcher, we were able to reach him and then transport him to safety. This is one of those rare occasions that search and rescue has been utilized to literally rescue a person that was not lost or was not missing. You can see the numbers of people involved. So we're talking about not just search and rescue members, but we were a mix of ambulance service and police forces. So a quite huge team that was there to help this young person to safety. This is another footage that I want to show you that shows the difference from using a thermal camera and not being able to see absolutely anything because there's no light in the area. So here's one of our members that is walking in complete darkness, and when the thermal camera is switched off, only because he turned the light on, I could see him with the drone. So that's why it's very, very important to utilize a thermal camera in this type of environments. Talking about, again, thermal cameras, there's a numbers of what we call them palettes to determine colors and heat signatures. The picture on the left was, again, a clue that I spotted in a river in a park in South London, which drew my attention, but also concern, because I was not sure what that was, and that needed to be verified. Once again, I guided the police team that they were already in the area working with us, and they did a visual check. Unfortunately for us, this was a wooden log that was just floating above the water, probably because it was not moving, was stuck, because maybe in the water there were branches where that piece of wood was stuck. But was a happy ending, at least was something that needed to be verified. And when we talk about accountability, we're also talking about observing a situation, and perhaps when the permission is granted, we start video recording for obvious reasons. Another capability that this drone has is heat signature. It took me some time to understand the best use of this capability. You have settings in these drones where you can create the minimum temperature and the temperature that we want to make sure that is not every temperature. That could be also a object that is providing a certain heat signature, but what could be the average of a human being signature. Me personally, I have set it, and there are variations depending about what time of the year we're talking about, but on average, the settings that I'm utilizing with this type of drone is in between 8 to 15 degrees. That is the average that I managed to determine that potentially could be a human person, but not also a human person. It could be a dog, it could be a horse, but we're talking about a signature of an individual or an animal that we need to go to verify. But sometimes you will not be able to see the full feature of what you're observing because maybe the vegetation is partially covering what you're observing, but this helps out a lot. And what is great, this type of reading follows, like in this case, this person. So you can see here. Moving on with area situation awareness, these are two real findings, not from us, but it gives a little context about how important is that aerial situation awareness, depending about the geographical area that you are searching. In both cases, these missing people that they were found was just something that could happen with the use of a drone. A team from the ground will have not been able to see this individual. The gentleman on the right was stuck in a hole, if I'm not mistaken, was injured but alive. And the police that were searching for him with the use of drone were be able to be directed to the spot and rescue this individual. It's also important to say, when you look at these pictures, you can see that the high vegetation has been squeezed, which only from the air you can determine if this maybe could be a path of a missing person. not always as a missing person, because they could be members of the public that they are walking in areas like these ones. But again, it gives the indication that there has been an individual walking in that area. This is another video that I did during a finding which concerned me. I wasn't sure what this object was in the water, so we decided to deploy the water team to do a physical and direct inspection. It's very important when we talk about accountability, when the permission is given to start video recording, because we don't know what we're going to be finding. First of all, in terms of health and safety, we're monitoring 2 individuals that they're part of the water team to make sure that they're safe whilst they're conducting their task. But at the same time, if that was a positive finding, this video becomes a piece of evidence that for us in the United Kingdom potentially will be material for the police, but also for the coroner's court if a missing person has been found in the water. Another reason why it's very important to value the use of a drones up in the air is what the team on the ground cannot see, because there are natural obstacle, like in this picture. This was done during a exercise because we wanted to prove the point about comparing what the drone can observe and what a search team on the ground can observe in a particular area. We have proven the point that despite the search team was not too far, if I'm not mistaken, was on the right-hand side of this field, they could not see that person walking on that path because of the vegetation. And this is, again, very important to highlight the fact about the use of drones becomes an exceptional tool, because at the end of the day, it's a tool that enhance a search and rescue team to assess and observe areas that from the ground you won't be able to. Again, another example of observing and providing that situation awareness. This was a real search done in a park in London. These are all search and rescue members that they created an extended line with the team leader behind, leading the team forward. This was a practical example that we wanted to combine the search and the use of drones in this particular type of task. This is another example, again, for training purposes. This was one of my very first tests that we have done with a drone versus a dog team. So what we did, we had a member of a team that went to hide themselves in an area where there was a lot of high grass and find a very, very good spot to hide. We did not know exactly which area. We were given a vast area as an indication, and we decided to launch the drone and the dog at the same time. So if I'm not mistaken, this person was hidden from us, I think was around 270 meters. And sorry, can you only hear me?
What?
Hello?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
You're doing
okay.
good.
I thought I lost the audio.
No, you are good.
Okay, perfect. So the person was 270 meters away from us. We start the search, and as soon I had the drone up in the air, I spotted, as I said before, a non-natural color that drew my attention. So literally, this search took me 27 seconds. That from a clue, I verified that that was the person that was searching. Now, compared with the dog, we come with an understanding and an agreement because it's very good to understand the other specialist team that you're working with. I was told that the dog will have struggled to find this person using more time because the dog becomes very, very tired when they go through high grass. So the dog, I think, took 9 minutes to reach this person. And for the drone, that was done in 27 seconds. This is again the picture that I showed. If I'm not mistaken, in this picture, you will see where is that hidden person. So we all know that there is a person here with a red jacket and another person that is walking on this path. There is a third person that, because of the colors that this person was wearing, was very, very difficult to spot. And this is where that person is. Again, when we talk about non-natural colors, that becomes an indication, at least to verify that you're looking for an individual. For us, and this is for every search and rescue team, we are provided with intelligence of what the missing person was wearing when it was last seen. So we got an idea when we start the search of what the missing person might be wearing and what might be the colors that we're looking for, but not necessarily has to be the only type of lead that we need to follow, because the missing person, as you all know, maybe could have changed clothes or maybe the intelligence is not accurate. Search method. So this is the search methods that we conduct. I did mention before about the national operational standards. We have 4 types of searches. They're not necessarily the only type of searches because every environment dictates the type of view that you can actually have on the ground and with the use of drones. So this is just an indication to start with, but depending about the area that you're searching, there could be other type of searches. And this is the skills that remote pilot will gain with time. And this is going to be an example. So when you look at this picture, think about what you see here of the vast majority of the area in the center is the open space with sporadic vegetation. This is the ideal environment that the drone can operate. So search number 1, the drone will place in the middle, and on its axis, it will do from approximately an average of 80 meters of altitude, all around view of the area without moving, and potentially could spot the missing person or anyway a clue. Another search is the drone will move to each corner of the search area and will start observing. Then it's going to move to another corner, to another corner, and to another corner. This can help to have a greater view from different angles of the search area. When we talk about footpaths, footpaths are mainly utilized by members of the public. And again, when we have intelligence of potentially what the missing person is wearing, we have to think about that there's going to be lots of other people in the park. So by scanning that footpath and locating other individuals, the observation then moves on to check potentially people that are walking on this path until you might find the missing person because with the description that was given matches exactly what we knew. Like in this case, we're talking about a person wearing with a rucksack. It's very little, but the individual on the right side is the only one wearing a backpack. Then we have a search pattern, a very defined pattern. that goes through the entire search area. And this is not used that much because sometimes we go by exclusion. So when we use the first three, if nothing has been found, we use this as a very last result, and then we move on a different area, because we get assigned areas every time one has been complete. Then there's going to be a risk assessment, and we are then moved to another area. Object detection. This is something very interesting, something that I've been working from the past few months. I believe object detection will help to reduce search time in an environment like ours. When we talk about intelligence, when we talk about what the missing person might be wearing, yes, the visual observation can help, but if you want to reduce the time of the search, knowing what you're looking for, object detection is what I strongly believe personally is going to become an additional tool for aerial searches. So we have done a number of tests, and object detection can be trained with a model to identify people, can identify vehicles, can literally identify what you want to train this model for. But at the same time, can be trained to recognize colors. And this is where it becomes very, very important for us, that type of capability, because with the model that I'm working on, is going to be mainly focused on identifying not just people, but also colors. And that is why it becomes very, very important to reduce the search time. We say in the United Kingdom, the golden hour, the first hour of a search is very, very important, especially when we talk about saving people's lives. So the faster that search can be conducted with accuracy, the more chances are that we can have a positive find and reduce that search time. So that's it. So if anyone is interested to make contact with me, you can find me on LinkedIn, or you can email me directly. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tony, for this sharing. It was very interesting regarding what you are doing in London. I don't know if we have any question on the chat box. I mean, not so far, but it was very interesting. Any thoughts? Any thoughts, David?
I do have a question for Tony, if you're still on. In regards to the object search studies that you've done, have you come to a decision or a conclusion on best practices or best approach, or is there software specific that you guys are looking at? I know we have different softwares here in the United States and Canada that has used that colorization or identification of color within mapping grid searches and doing, point of interest like waypoints. Have you been able to reproduce that in real time?
This is exactly when we talk about object detection. This is what, with this company we are talking about, we need to have that capability that can be run in real time. Now, the question was asked at the very beginning, and the answer was yes, can be done. Can be done on the practical side. I will find out more with few more months, because the model needs to be trained. The model to be trained, you have to have a good library of a mix of videos and pictures to train the model. Going back about what you mentioned at the beginning about best practice, coming from a military and a police background, especially in this sector, I think, and this is the exciting part, because the drone industry is full of great ideas. So when we talk about innovation, the excitement is about exploring all these capabilities. So we haven't got a defined best practice. We are continuously evolving, and this is what I love about this sector. And that is why I'm doing this as a full-time job as well in the drone industry. The more technology is advancing, the more capabilities we have at our disposal, like in this case, to make search and rescue with the use. And I actually openly say the drone is a tool. The drone is not going to replace a search technician. It's there to enhance a search. And the more technology is available, the great opportunities are to implement these searches.
Thank you, Tony.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Tony, to be our last speaker. And it was very interesting, as I said. Thanks to everybody who attended this webinar for the IEDO conference 2024. Once again, unfortunately, I apologize because we didn't succeed to make it physical, but it will be back. It will be back. I don't know when, but it will be back. The IEDO Conf physically somewhere, and I cannot wait to meet you all, guys, and exchange about our discussion and exchanges. Yes, the webinar was recorded, and we will share it as soon as possible online to make it accessible to everybody. And I hope you enjoy it, and just stay connected and tune to IEDO if you want more exchanges of knowledge for the future. Thanks for everybody. Bye.
Good job,
Thank you.
Evelyn.